Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Baby's got a shooter. Baby's got corrosion now. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
You know what? Baby does have it. Baby has it. Baby's got it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Friday, 2 weeks away from the unholy day of Halloween. It's on a Friday this year, folks, and we're doing ExtraBulla goodies on Halloween. You know we do that every year. This year, let's see, last year we did Nosferatu. Good little flick, silent movie. This one is from 1968. Of course, it's Night of the Living Dead. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time for that. Let's go around the horn here. We'll start off with Rumble first. We got Ghost Start over there. Ghost Start saying, I'm trying to get access to my original Ghost Start account on YouTube, so I'll only be on Rumble temporarily. P.S. Fuck Steve G. Oh, no, not Steve G. Do not fuck G and Steve G. We like Steve, even though we don't know how to pronounce his name. And by we, I mean me. I do that sometimes. So we got over on YouTube, we got P Stuff. What's up, P Stuff? Good to see you. Mystery. Good morning, Mystery. Good to see you, dear. Hope you're doing well. We got Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. UFO Show Intergalactic. Another dimension. Hanging out in space with Elon's car and 3i Atlas. That's a party right there. Well, Yonina, what's up? Still listening? Okay. All right. You're on your way to eviction court. Oh, no. I hope everything goes well, dear. I hope it goes fine. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you. Miss Laine Petersen in the house. Good to see you. Who else we got up in her? We got Miguel, of course, is in here. What's up, Miguel? Good to see you. And Commentary Kate. Kate, I hope you're doing all right. Are you done with your Canadian Thanksgiving? Is that done? CBC voter, good to see you as well. I think that's everybody. And if I missed you, as always, I'll aim better next time. No foolishness this morning. We got to get to the news. Sad note, we'll start things off with, I want to rock and roll all night and party every day, but not Ace Frehley, not anymore. He's done. Ace Frehley, Kiss leads guitarist and solo artist, dies at 74. There's the before, and then there's the after picture. He kind of looks like a guy I worked with at Borders a long time ago. Borders Books. What happened? So Paul Daniel Ace Frehley, co-founder and lead guitarist of the legendary rock band Kiss and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, has died following injuries suffered during a fall last month. According to a statement from his family, he was 74. It's hard to believe anybody in Kiss is 74, but here we are. Frehley's family wrote in the statement, "We are completely devastated and heartbroken. In his last moments, we were fortunate enough to have been able to surround him with loving, caring, peaceful words, thoughts, prayers, and intentions as he left this earth. We cherish all of his finest memories, his laughter, and celebrate his strengths and kindness that he bestowed upon others. The magnitude of his passing is of epic proportions and beyond comprehension, reflecting on all of his incredible life achievements. Ace's memory will continue to live on forever." His longtime bandmates, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, wrote in a statement, "We're devastated by the passing of Ace Frehley." If that was like your friend, why would you say Ace Frehley? Why would you say his whole name like he was a serial killer? I don't get it. Hey, Game.film, what's up? Good to see you, bud. Yeah, R.I.P. Ace. He was an essential and irreplaceable rock soldier during some of the most formative foundational chapters of the band and its history. He is and will always be a part of Kiss legacy. Our thoughts are with Jeanette, Monique, and all those who loved him, including our fans around the world. So, yeah, you know who Kiss is. They wore makeup for a while, and then they started looking like chicks. Frehley joined co-founders Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Peter Criss in 1972 and remained with the band for the most of the significant eras. He left in 1982 for a solo career, but rejoined when the original band reunited in 96 for a highly lucrative reunion tour and remained until 2002. He worked as a solo artist during the intervening years with his band Frehley's Comet and under his own name. In 1978, when all four members of Kiss released solo albums simultaneously, many fans felt that Frehley's, which featured his hit cover of the song New York Groove, was the best. You know that song. I'm back. Back in the New York Groove. I'm back. Who did that originally? Was that New York Dolls did that originally? So, yeah, and then it goes on for some history, but basically you get the gist of it. Ace Frehley, no mas aquí. I don't know how you say he's not alive anymore. I'm saying he's not here, but he's in rock and roll heaven, kicking ass and taking names. I know it didn't really flow with the rest of the show, but I like to get the death of rock celebrities out of the way because, you know, this news is bumming enough. The last thing you need to end it with some of that shit. It was a band called Hello. Huh? Pour one out for Space Ace. I know, right? Yeah, so, you know, Prince, and you got David Bowie, and all these other rockers are leaving this planet. And these poor children that are coming along will never know unless, you know, they stream it. But unless you've been to a Kiss concert, you don't know shit. All right, let's get into the real news. Well, I mean, that's real news, but you know what I mean. Here's the real bad news. That's bad news. Here's the real bad news. So cease in quotation marks as always when it comes to Israel, as Israeli forces kill at least 3 more Palestinians in Gaza despite the ceasefire. Apparently they don't know what the cease in ceasefire means. Oh, did they die on this day too? Okay. Israeli forces have killed at least 3 Palestinians in Gaza yesterday, according to reports from the Strip, despite the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The Palestinian news agency Wafa reported yesterday that 2 brothers were killed by an Israeli drone to the east of the southern city of Khan Yunis. Ambulance teams were unable to evacuate the bodies due to the danger posed by continued Israeli attacks on civilians. The report said, "It's a ceasefire." A source in Gaza's ambulance service told Al Jazeera that at least 1 person was killed in the Barej refugee camp in central Gaza. Gaza's health ministry said in its daily death toll update, which is released about midday Gaza time, that at least 4 Palestinians were killed by Israeli forces over the previous 24-hour period. Another 3 Palestinians died of wounds sustained in previous Israeli attacks, and 22 bodies were recovered from the rubble. The health ministry said that since the ceasefire went into effect just a little less than a week ago, 23 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks and 122 have been wounded. Cease fire. Cease. Cease. Don't you know what that word means? It means stop. Cease and desist. Stop and desist. The circumstances of all the Israeli attacks are unclear, but Israel has threatened to kill anyone who crosses the so-called yellow line, the line IDF forces withdrew to when the truce went into effect. Several incidents have occurred in Gaza City's Shujaya neighborhood, where 5 Palestinians were killed by the IDF on Monday. Palestinian reports said they were in the neighborhood inspecting their homes, while the IDF claimed they crossed the yellow line and posed a threat, though the IDF did not allege they were armed. So what kind of threat were they? Finger man, finger man, finger man, fashionably late. How dare you, sir? I said good day. No, you're all right. You just missed the Ace Frehley obit that we did. So Ace Frehley died, in case you didn't know. Palestinians have been killed in clashes between Hamas and an armed clan that occurred on Sunday, according to Al Jazeera. At least 27 people, including 8 Hamas members, were killed in the fighting. And Trumpy, what does Trumpy do? He didn't say a fucking word. He didn't say a fucking word. Meanwhile, Trump threatens to go in and kill Hamas over internal clashes. He'll do that. Trumpy on Thursday threatened that we, I guess that's the royal we, because it's in air quotes, would have to go in and kill Hamas in Gaza if the group continues killing alleged criminals and Israeli collaborators, reversing his previous support for Hamas's armed action. Yeah, exactly. If your religion requires you to hate, you need a new religion, or none altogether. Better to have none than to be up in that business. If Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump wrote on this Truth Social. Every time he writes something on there, he's like, I'm going to kill all you motherfuckers. You're going to die. I'm going to drink your blood. And then he always ends with thank you for your attention to this matter, like it's a inner office memo or some shit. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What a piece of shit. Over the weekend, dozens were killed in clashes between Hamas and other militias in Gaza, and some Palestinians were summarily executed, but it's unclear if there have been any internal clashes or executions in Gaza in recent days, while Israeli forces have continued to kill Palestinians despite the ceasefire, something Trump hasn't condemned. How about that? How about that? Whoa, I guess that's fine. As long as it's not you, right? Don't worry, they'll be able to eventually locate the bones to process as bone meal, as had been done with buffalo kills, other human conflicts, right? Yeah. You fired up your computer, your mouse is moving like it's on Quaaludes. You got to leave your mouse away from the Quaaludes. You got to keep your Quaaludes away from... Quaaludes? Why are you bringing in 70s drugs? What are you talking about Quaaludes? Are we going to be talking about angel dust next too? I'm kidding. Don't listen to me. After the clashes, Hamas offered amnesty to members of armed groups and gave them until October 19th to surrender. According to a report from Sky News, at least 3 anti-Hamas militias that operate in areas of Gaza controlled by the Israeli military are refusing to disarm. And gee, I wonder why. Hiding behind their daddies. Israel has armed gangs and militias as part of its strategy against Hamas, including a gang led by Yasser Abu Shabab, who is known for looting aid trucks. Some members of the Abu Shabab gang, which controls territory in southern Gaza under the watch of the IDF, have ties to ISIS because, of course, they do. Trump's comments on Thursday mark a departure from his support for Hamas's activity in Gaza. He said earlier this week that Hamas had approval to reassert control of areas of Gaza to prevent crime, and also said the people the people the group executed were gang members. They did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out. And they killed a number of gang members. That didn't bother me much, to be honest with you, but that's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs, the gangs, the president said on Tuesday. Did he say that on Tuesday? I don't care who he said it. What is Hamas doing? Hamas is hunting down groups in Gaza that collaborated with the Israeli army one by one. One by one, I got nothing to hide. Sorry, it's a Foo Fighters song. By now, the video has gone viral. Masked gunmen affiliated with Hamas in Nusrat refugee camp, central Gaza, line up a group of men with their hands bound as onlookers gather around them. The Hamas fighters shout that the men are collaborators with the Israeli army. Murders! An onlooker shouts. They are executed by firing squad. In another video, a similar scene plays out. A Hamas fighter addresses the crowd, saying that the accused joined hands with the Israeli army to kill their own people and have been sentenced to death. Before the execution takes place, the masked fighter issues a warning. We say to every collaborator, to the great collaborator, Yasser Abu Shabab, we say Aboob. Yasser Abu Shabab, the greatest collaborator, Rami Hillis, and the greatest collaborator, Ahmad Jundiya. You will all be brought here to the resistance fighters' feet. Hamas is pissed. Ever since the ceasefire with Israel came into effect, Hamas has launched a wide-ranging security campaign to crack down on armed gangs that were responsible for looting humanitarian aid during the war. Yeah, your Abu Shabab people who are looting aid trucks. Giggity gangs. Giggity gangs. Responsible for them. In some cases, those gangs were tasked by the Israeli army with fighting Hamas directly while reportedly receiving arms, training, funding, and logistical field support from Israel, according to reports in local and Israeli media. Bibi also publicly admitted to the policy in June. The state of chaos was made possible due to the power vacuum created by Israel's declared policy of systematically targeting Hamas civil servants, including the local police force responsible for maintaining public order and fighting crime. This forced the Gaza police to go into hiding following the breakdown of the previous ceasefire in March, allowing for clans and other armed groups to loot aid under Israeli protection. Palestinians say this was part of an intentional Israeli policy of appearing to let aid into Gaza, but making sure it doesn't get to those who need it. A scheme, as it were. The most infamous groups that are now the target of the Hamas crackdown include the so-called Popular Forces led by Yasser Abu Shabab in Rafah, the Counterterrorism Strike Force led by Hussam al-Astal in Khan Yunis, a militia in eastern Gaza City led by a former member of the Palestinian Authority's security forces, Rami Hillis, an armed group in Gaza City led by a former member of the PA's intelligence service, Ahmad Jundiya, and armed members of the Dogmush clan. That's some heavy names there. The Hamas campaign began shortly after the ceasefire went into effect. On October 4th, Hamas members eliminated collaborators from the Majadla clan in Khan Yunis, allegedly for killing 2 resistance fighters. When the Hamas forces stormed the clan's residential block housing the accused, the family clashed with Hamas forces. According to local reports, the Israeli army intervened during the shootout and bombed the resistance fighters, killing 7 of them. As the ceasefire was reached, the Israeli army was ordered to stand down and not to intervene anymore. Israeli soldiers reported watching from their observation posts with hands tied. Really? I don't see that. Oh, all of a sudden they can't do anything? Please, they do whatever the hell they want to. Anyone who expects Israel to help those same clans is mistaken. It looks like Israel has left them to deal with this alone, one Israeli officer tells Haaretz. Trumpy said he wasn't bothered by the Hamas crackdown, admitting that it did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad. Hamas took the opportunity to eliminate forces complicit in the famine, an effort that remains ongoing. But some groups like Yasser Abu Shabab's, I said Aboob again, I'm just going to keep saying Aboob because it's just fun. Like Yasser Abub, Shababs remain in areas still under Israeli control. On October 12th, the Gaza Ministry of Interior announced that it was opening an amnesty window for all collaborators with the Israeli army who were not themselves involved in bloodshed. The amnesty window will end Sunday, October 19th, the ministry statement said, adding that those who surrender will have their records wiped clean. Sure they will. On the first day of the ceasefire, Hamas stormed the Dogmush family compound in Gaza City and placed the entire block under siege for 3 days. Members of the Dogmush clan have been accused of killing Palestinian journalist Saleh al-Jafarawi, as well as Naim, that can't be right, the son of senior Hamas leader Bassem Naim. Maybe it is. On the second day of the ceasefire, my true love gave to me, Hamas announced that it had killed Yasser Abu Shabab's right-hand man, Ahmad Tarabin, in Khan Yunis. On Tuesday, Hamas forces attacked the gang led by Rami Hillis in the Al-Shujaiya neighborhood east of Gaza City. Man, that Shujaiya, that was a fun one. We have been dealing with criminals and outlaws using two frameworks, a security source in Gaza's Ministry of Interior told Manda Weiss, that's this periodical here. The first framework allows us to grant them amnesty or try them before court if they surrender themselves and cooperate with the security forces. But in the second framework, we pursue every single outlaw with all our power, wherever they are. Our operations will root them all out without exception. The security source from the ministry said that the security forces were working to reinstate law and order in the Strip and to pursue armed gangs that have connections with the Israeli army. These families have taken advantage of the proximity of the areas to the Israeli army's military operations to act against Gaza and its people, the source explained. They have waylaid convoys, looted aid, and abducted and terrorized citizens. The security source referred to the Dogmush clan, not mentioning them by name, as a large family that formed one such gang in the Sabra neighborhood in western Gaza City, where the Israeli army's military operations were concentrated before the ceasefire. The security forces neutralized this group and dealt with it decisively, especially after it refused to respond to the ultimatum we gave it to hand over its weapons and return to the fold of their people, the source said. Reactions in Gaza to videos of summary executions have been mixed. Some have expressed online that people in Gaza have seen enough horror over the past 2 years, condemning the killings unequivocally. Others have said that the gangs being targeted are more dangerous than the occupation itself, maintaining that the execution should be a message to people who think twice before collaborating with the occupation against their own people. Any act we are doing aims to impose order and the law, and we have the full support of our clans, the security source in the Ministry of Interior said. We are also working to prevent attempts to create chaos, which is being fomented by outsiders and groups connected to the Palestinian Authority. Earlier this week, the head of the Higher Committee for Tribal Affairs in Gaza, Sheikh Husni al-Mughni, reacted to one of the execution videos in an interview on the Saudi-owned channel Al Hadath. He said that the clans in Gaza supported Hamas's efforts, heart and soul, and asserted that justice was served. Hamas warned these people several times through mediators and family members to surrender and face justice, Al-Mughni said. Frankly, they deserve even harsher punishment if you know what they did. He added, a man who beats and kills a 10-year-old child to steal his flower deserves execution. Even worse. Can't find the lie there. Yeah, so during the ceasefire, Hamas has been hunting down. they've been getting after some folks, doing a little house cleaning, as it were. Yeah, and of course these gangs were in there to try to disrupt things. There's always agents provocateur, right? Just so they can blame the collective for the whole thing that a few people do. And speaking of aid to Gaza, they finally started letting aid in by the truckloads. But guess what Israel did? And you get 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. Because the third guess is Israel has aid delivered to Gaza. We all knew they were going to be doing some fuckery like this, like keep shooting people and keeping aid away. And sure enough, here it is. So Israel has reduced the number of aid trucks allowed into Gaza each day from 600 to 300. The ceasefire and hostage exchange require Israel to allow 600 trucks into Gaza each day, the minimum number the U.S. says is needed to feed the Palestinians. Where's Trumpy? On Tuesday, Tel Aviv announced it would reduce the number of aid trucks allowed into Gaza each day. The Israeli government claimed the move was a response to Hamas not releasing the bodies of deceased hostages fast enough. Oh, look at that. We're going to talk about that shortly. Hamas and President Donald Trump have said it is difficult to recover the bodies because of the massive destruction in Gaza. It's also difficult to recover the bodies while you're still fucking bombing people. I don't know. That just seems like something that's unnecessary in the way of progress there. On Wednesday, Axios reporter Barak Ravid wrote on Twitter that Israeli sources claim to have provided the U.S. with intelligence showing that Hamas is not making an effort to recover the bodies. Of course, Israelis say they're not doing it fast enough. It's like, we don't see Hamas making maximum effort regarding the bodies. We know they can do more, and we don't think anybody should give them any discounts, an Israeli fuckface told Ravid. The Trump administration has disputed this narrative, saying Hamas is making an effort to return the deceased hostages and is not violating the ceasefire pact. It's almost impossible for Hamas to reach all the dead hostages, one of the advisors said. According to the UN tracker on food aid entering Gaza, just over 400 aid trucks had reached distribution points in Gaza since the ceasefire took effect last Friday. Only 400. Al Jazeera reports that some of the trucks Israel allowed in are carrying commercial goods that are unaffordable for most Palestinians. Additionally, truck drivers complained that the Israeli inspection process was taking longer than expected. The U.S. is establishing a multinational command center outside of Gaza to monitor the ceasefire and aid deliveries to the Strip. Yeah, right. That's what they tell you they're doing. At the start of the Israeli onslaught in Gaza, aid agencies said 600 aid trucks entering Gaza a day was the minimum required amount to sustain the population. An Al Jazeera reporter noted that the amount was no longer sufficient to feed Gaza. So they're back to starving again. Back to starving again because Israel's playing games. And there's infectious diseases spiraling out of control in Gaza too. Who? Who? The Gazans, that's who. Jesus, look at that. That looks like a nuke went off there. The World Health Organization has warned that infectious diseases are spiraling out of control in the Gaza Strip, with only 13 of the Palestinian territories' 36 hospitals even partially functioning, whether meningitis, diarrhea, respiratory illnesses. We're talking about a mammoth amount of work. Hanan Balki, regional director for the United Nations health body, told AFP in Cairo, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has raised hopes of life-saving aid and healthcare finally reaching Palestinians in Gaza after 2 years of war, but Balki warned the challenges are unimaginable. Well, they're kind of imaginable if you know Israel. We need more fuel to go into Gaza. We need more food, more medical equipment, medications, medics, doctors, she said in an interview on Wednesday, echoing demands by international leaders for Israel to allow in a massive increase of aid. WHO data shows that there are only 8 health facilities, all of them partially functioning in Gaza City, the territory's main urban hub. The organization said the hospitals still standing are suffering dire shortages of medical personnel who have themselves faced famine and Israel's relentless offensive, which has claimed nearly 68,000 lives, according to the territory's health ministry. But of course, those figures, the UN considers those figures reliable, but we all know that's thousands more. For Balki, when people talk about repairing Gaza's devastated hospitals, the question is how many of them are available for rehabilitation versus having to rebuild all over again. We're talking about billions of dollars, and we're talking about decades of work, she said, after the territory's healthcare was essentially dismantled. Since October 7th, 2023, the Hamas's attack, which sparked the war, Gaza's health facilities have suffered more than 800 attacks, according to UN data. There's very little left of the healthcare system. You have children that were born over the past 2 years who, many of them, I'm assuming, have reached 0 doses of immunizations. The UN says nearly 42,000 people are suffering life-changing injuries, a quarter of them children. Balki called for patients to be able to once again access the West Bank and Jerusalem so they can get the care that is available right close by, and that's the place where they used to go for care. Israel has severely limited permits for Palestinians to leave Gaza throughout the war, making medical evacuations nearly impossible. Mental health needs, on the other hand, have more than doubled among the more than 2 million Palestinians trapped under bombardment for 2 years, according to the WHO. Over 1 million people require urgent support, but available care falls far short. We're really hoping that the peace is fully sustained so that we can start, Balki said. I wouldn't count on it anytime soon. So there's all this fuckery about you didn't get the hostages out fast enough or whatever. Hamas says it returned all recoverable captives as Israel blocks Rafah crossing. Look, it's ICE. Oh, wait, it's the IDF. Wait, oh, no, that's a Hamas fighter. Never mind. He looks badass. Hamas has announced it has returned all the deceased Israeli captives it was able to recover as part of the ongoing ceasefire agreement with Israel. The statement came as 2 more bodies were handed over to Israel late on Wednesday via the International Committee of the Red Cross. In a statement, the Qassam Brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, said it had fulfilled its commitments under the deal. The resistance has adhered to the agreement and handed over all the living captives it held, as well as the bodies it was able to access, the group said. It added that recovering the remaining bodies requires significant effort and specialized equipment because they're probably buried under tons and tons of rubble. We're making great efforts to close this file, the statement said. The handover is part of a ceasefire agreement signed last week between Israel and Hamas. On Monday, Hamas released 20 living Israeli captives in exchange for just under 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, over 9,000 still being held. The deal also stipulates that Hamas will return the bodies of 28 deceased Israeli captives in exchange for around 400 Palestinian bodies currently withheld by Israel. The agreement does not specify a deadline for the return of the bodies, acknowledging the difficulty of locating and recovering them in current conditions. They can't just teleport them or beam them out. Much of the challenge stems from Israel's 2-year genocidal war on Gaza, which has destroyed or damaged more than 83% of all buildings in the Strip, according to UN estimates. Many of the deceased are believed to be buried under rubble or in underground tunnels, and some may never be recovered. Kind of like trying to recover the 9/11 victims that were crushed under all that concrete. Man, that's a terrible story, too. They said they were finding, like, arms and legs on rooftops on nearby buildings. Ooh. As of Wednesday, Hamas had handed over 9 Israeli bodies, while Israel had returned 90 Palestinian bodies to Gaza. 19 Israeli bodies remain in Gaza, and Israel continues to withhold the bodies of hundreds of Palestinians, with estimates ranging from 700 to more than 4,000. Some of the remains date back to 1967 or earlier. Israel has used the delay in the return of all Israeli bodies to justify punitive measures on the Gaza Strip and violations of the ceasefire agreement. As we told you, they cut the aid trucks in half. According to Israeli media reports, the government has decided not to reopen the Rafah crossing, a move that contradicts the ceasefire deal. What? Israel's doing something to contradict the ceasefire? Shocking! That never happens, which stipulated the crossing would reopen Wednesday. The Rafah crossing with Egypt is the only pedestrian and commercial gateway between Gaza and the outside world that was not previously under Israeli control. During its ground invasion of Rafah, Israel destroyed the crossing and sealed it off, preventing the evacuation of tens of thousands of critically wounded people and halting the entry of both humanitarian and commercial supplies. Steve Wolfbrand, what's up? Good to see you. Hello, hello, hello. The Israeli military confirmed on Thursday the crossing will open at a later stage, but did not specify when. Eventually is not a date. I'm sorry. The U.S. has denied accusations against Hamas that it was violating the ceasefire with the delay in returning bodies. A senior advisor to Trump, speaking on condition of anonymity, told reports that Hamas honored the deal by releasing all living captives as agreed. He added that there was an understanding that the return of the bodies would be a lengthy process and that mechanisms are in place to help locate and recover them. Turkey has offered to send a team of 80 specialists with earthquake rescue experience to Gaza to assist in locating and retrieving the bodies. Egypt is also reportedly set to assist in the process. Meanwhile, the families of Israeli captives demand Tel Aviv halt the ceasefire deal. These are the people who are wanting the dead bodies back. The families of Israeli captives demanded yesterday that Israel halt the Gaza ceasefire deal until the bodies of 19 captives are returned from the Strip, a day after Trumpy threatened to greenlight a new assault on the Strip. At a time that Hamas is violating the agreements and still holding 19 hostages, there is no room for Israel to advance unilateral steps. Any diplomatic or military action that does not ensure the return is an abandonment of Israel's civilians, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum said in a statement. Members of the forum have made a similar request to Israeli Army Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir. The families had spent 2 years demanding an agreement to return the living captives. The statement by the captives' families coincided with continued Israeli ceasefire violations. One Palestinian was killed by a drone strike, as we told you, in Khan Yunis. A day earlier, Trump threatened to order Israeli forces to re-enter parts of Gaza they withdrew from and resume the war, accusing Hamas of failing to comply with the ceasefire agreement. Even though one of the U.S. people said in anonymity, they did their thing. What's going on with Hamas? That'll be straightened out quickly, Trump told CNN in a telephone interview. The president threatened to order Israeli forces to return to Gaza's streets if Hamas does not fully comply with his ceasefire plan, warning that Israel will return to those streets as soon as I say the word. He added that if Israel could, it would go in and knock the crap out of them, stressing that he had to hold them back. Whatever. Israeli officials, including Bibi and Defense Minister Israel Katz, have also threatened to resume the war several times since the deal was reached. Well, there's a shock. Katz has ordered the army to prepare a plan to crush Hamas. Hamas has fully abided by the agreement, releasing all 20 living captives in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Israel has accused the resistance group of obstructing the deal by not returning all the dead captives, and as we told you why, because they're all buried under rubble. The Red Cross has warned, however, that finding all the bodies of the deceased captives would be extremely difficult due to the massive amounts of rubble from Israeli strikes. It also said some of the captives may never be found, and we told you that before, which goes to show that it's like these people should really be pissed off at Israel for bombing the fuck out of that place and burying the bodies of their relatives. Sounds like it to me. Hamas handed over 9 bodies this week in exchange for scores of Palestinian bodies that bore signs of execution and arrived in Khan Yunis with their legs and hands cuffed. 19 deceased captives remain in the Strip. The resistance has abided by the terms of the agreement. We have handed over all the living prisoners in our custody, as well as the bodies we were able to retrieve. As for the remaining bodies, locating and extracting them requires extensive efforts and special equipment. We are exerting great efforts to close this file, Hamas's military wing, the Qassam Brigade, said in a statement on Wednesday. And they know this too. They know that these people are buried under the rubble. Israel is using every excuse, every little trick in the book to get rid of these people. That's all they're doing. All of this is just an attempt to get rid of the Palestinians by hook or by crook, as they used to say. And we told you about this the other day, about how much it's going to cost Palestine to rebuild. We got a little bit of a breakdown here for you. As government unveils $67 billion price tag for 5-year plan for Gaza reconstruction. 5 years. I hope that's going to be some quick stuff. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa said yesterday that his government, in partnership with Arab and international experts, has developed a 3-phase recovery and construction plan for Gaza, estimated to cost around $67 billion and span 5 years, according to Anadolu. Speaking at a press conference in Ramallah ahead of a special meeting on the recovery plan, Mustafa said the initiative aims to rebuild the war-ravaged Gaza Strip following nearly 2 years of Israeli attacks that have left tens of thousands dead and massive destruction across the enclave. Diplomats and representatives of international institutions attended the event. Mustafa outlined that the first phase, focused on meeting urgent humanitarian and infrastructure needs, will last 6 months and at a cost of $3.5 billion. The second phase, lasting 3 years, will require $30 billion, while the final phase will focus on completing reconstruction and long-term recovery. So do the math there. So it's like another $30 billion after that. He said talks are ongoing with international partners to secure resources for the plan's implementation, adding that a major reconstruction conference will be held in Egypt 1 month after the end of the war. Cowboy Kitty, what's up, cowboy? Good to see you, bud. The Prime Minister stressed that Israel must fulfill its obligations by withdrawing from Gaza. Yeah, right. Opening border crossings and allowing the entry of humanitarian aid and reconstruction materials. Rejecting external conditions regarding governance in Gaza, Mustafa said, "We did not ask for guarantees from anyone over Gaza's administration." He emphasized that the PA, the Palestinian Authority, already governs the West Bank under Israeli occupation and intends to extend its authority over Gaza once conditions permit. There will be no internal Palestinian dispute on this matter, Mustafa said. Israel, however, opposes any role for the PA or Hamas in governing Gaza after the war. The premier reiterated that the PA sees Gaza as part of the Palestinian state and is working day and night to restore governance over the country. Negotiations on the second phase of the ceasefire agreement are expected to begin within days, with Hamas demanding a complete end to the war, full Israeli withdrawal, and retention of its weapons. A Gaza ceasefire agreement was reached between Israel and Hamas last week, based on plan by Trumpy. Okay, so phase 1 included the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. The plan also envisages the rebuilding of Gaza and the establishment of a new governing mechanism without Hamas. That should be a sticky wicket, for sure. As, why am I so short? Sorry. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. And it's probably not going to start anytime soon because, like we said, we got to wait for Israel to stop blowing up shit. And what does Israel do best? They blow up shit. Because they're homicidal maniacs. So don't hold your breath on the reconstruction of Gaza anytime soon. And it sure as hell probably won't be in the vision that the Palestinians want, because the Palestinians never get what they want, it seems like. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, heavy Israeli airstrikes reported in southern and eastern parts of the country. 1 killed. That's another ceasefire that didn't take. Israel continues to escalate its airstrikes against Lebanon, launching massive airstrikes against multiple targets in the country, including targets in the southern town of Banafal, where both warplanes and drones caused major explosions and damaged multiple buildings. Other strikes were reported near Nabatea and the Bekaa Valley town of Chmistar. A sound bomb was dropped at Ras Nakora, and a drone also struck an area of the town of Blida while locals were harvesting olives. They also fired artillery near Yaroun. A sound bomb. What the fuck is a sound bomb? Details are still emerging about the casualties caused in these strikes. Early reports are 1 person was killed and at least 7 wounded. The IDF issued statements claiming that strikes in both the south of Lebanon and Bekaa Valley actually targeted underground Hezbollah storage facilities. The one of the H's of the triple H. H. In Lebanon, it's about Hezbollah. In Gaza, it's about Hamas. In Yemen, it's about the Houthis. It's Triple H. The IDF did not provide any evidence. Well, yeah, you could just put that on the tombstone. The IDF or Israel did not provide any evidence. We'll accept that answer as well. To support the claim that Hezbollah facilities were located at these sites and the terms of the ceasefire were meant to have them inform Lebanon of the discovered location so the army could dismantle them, which did not happen. Israel has been attacking Lebanon on a near daily basis since the ceasefire was signed in November of last year, but increasingly intense strikes in recent weeks, destroying a large number of construction vehicles last week in an attack on Masala. Over the weekend, Israel even carried out a drone attack against UNIFIL peacekeepers in the area near Kfar Kela, wounding one. It was the second time they struck near UNIFIL personnel in the past month, and the IDF insisted that only that they would take measures to avoid casualties when striking near them in the future. It kind of reminds me of like the person that said you draw a line in the sand, right? And they don't step over the line completely. They kind of go boop 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 boop. I'm over the line. I'm back. I'm over the line. I'm back. That just seems like what Israel does. Just that teasing shit, and you just want to punch them right in the fucking face. Speaking of Yemen, as we just did, Willie Bragg in the house. What's up? Good to see you, buddy. Yemen confirms military chief of staff has been killed in an Israeli strike. So this is Kyle Anzalone via the Saba news agency. The Yemeni military revealed on Thursday that the chief of staff of the Ansarallah-led Yemeni Air Force Armed Forces, the YAF, Major General Mohammed Abdul Karim al-Gamari, was killed by an Israeli strike. The statement said his 13-year-old son was also killed. Of course, he's a Houthi. The official statement said Gamari was killed while performing his jihadist duties and joined a number of noble martyrs, civilian and military, who were killed during the conflict with Israel. The statement did not say when he was killed. Ansar Allah, the group that controls most of the populated areas of Yemen, you know them as the Houthis, launched a blockade of Israeli-linked shipping in 2023 in response to the genocide in Gaza. Ansar Allah has removed the blockade during ceasefire periods in Gaza. Pretty sure it's going to be going back up soon. Israel and the U.S. have conducted large-scale bombing campaigns in Yemen over the past 2 years, but were unable to break the blockade. Additionally, Ansar Allah has attacked U.S. ships in the Red Sea and targeted Israel with missiles and drones. After weeks of the U.S. bombing Yemen in May, Trump reached a ceasefire with Ansar Allah that did not extend to Israel. Israel and the U.S. struck several civilian targets in Yemen, including ports, power plants, residential buildings, and media offices, but mostly civilians, because that's what they do best. Let's murder a whole bunch of people. That's right. How's gravity treating you? To ask about a man's gravity? The Israeli army is launching a recruitment campaign in Yemen targeting Ansar Allah opponents. So that's how you do a coup. You get with the opposition, you fund them, you set them up, and then they take over and you got yourself a new puppet. That's how things work. That's what they're trying to do in Venezuela. Good thing we abandoned tons of weaponry in these places and they can be sold privately for reasonable prices. That's right. The Israeli Army's Intelligence Unit 504 has launched an online campaign targeting Yemenis, urging them to cooperate with Tel Aviv against Yemen's Ansar Allah, yeah. When they put it together, it looks weird. Resistant movement. According to multiple media reports, the Israeli Intelligence Unit has launched a series of paid advertisements in a bid to recruit spies in Yemen. Yemen has long experienced crisis after crisis, but real change begins with those who refuse to give up. Unit 504 gives you the tools and opportunity to build a difference tomorrow. One of the advertisements read. Another one. Are you tired of watching Yemen collapse? Are you tired of life without work, security, or a future? Hey, that's the United States. Are you willing to do what needs to be done? Unit 504 gives you a chance to put your skills to use. Have your actions make a difference and put your future in your own hands. Another advertisement says, this opportunity will not come again. Order now and you'll get a second Unit 504 for half price. And these steak knives, absolutely free. Just kidding, you got to pay for the steak knives. The ads are geared mainly toward critics or political opponents of Ansarallah. Al-Akbar newspaper reveals that observers in Sana'a are warning that this campaign reflects on an Israeli intent to expand intelligence operations in the country and prepare for retaliatory attacks in response to Yemen's support for Gaza. Freaking grow the opposition doesn't choose. I know, right? If anybody should know, Choosy would know. U.S. supports every puppet president or like 3/4 of the dictator. Yeah. As long as it serves the United States interest. Yeah, they will back you. And then when you stop, that's a wrap. A Yemeni military source told the Lebanese newspaper that Yemen will not stand idly by in the face of any violations of the Gaza ceasefire agreement and will retaliate in the event of an Israeli aggression against the Strip. Israel is reportedly gearing up to continue attacks against Yemen, despite Ansarallah and the Yemeni armed forces halting operations during the ceasefire, as it had repeatedly vowed it would. Just poking the bear. Just keep poking the bear. Hebrew news outlet Channel 12 reported that intense discussions within the security establishment recently led to separating the Yemen front from that of Gaza, allowing military action against Yemen to continue post-ceasefire. Bella, Bella, Bella. What's up? Good to see you. This week, Yemeni President Mahdi al-Mashat said Sana'a will respect the ceasefire, but vowed that the country will remain vigilant, pretty much saying, yeah, we've seen these ceasefires before. They're pretty much bullshit. Work is underway to develop military capabilities in all fields in order to achieve deterrence amid the fierce aggression against Yemen and its security, he added. Ansarallah, which is merged with the Yemen armed forces, was among the first to open a front against Israel at the start of the genocide following Operation Al-Aqsa Flood in October 2023. Since then, the YAF and Ansarallah have carried out scores of successful missile and drone strikes against Israeli targets and open up a naval front that has decimated global shipping and Israeli maritime interests over the past 2 years. As a result of this front, the southern Israeli port of Eilat was forced to shut. Late last month, a Yemeni drone attack injured 20 Israelis in Eilat. Yemen had vowed repeatedly since the start of the war 2 years ago that its operations would not stop until the genocide ended and the siege was lifted. The Yemeni front was the last of the Gaza support fronts that were open in support of the Palestinian resistance. These included Lebanon's Hezbollah, the first group to open a front against Israel after October 7th, as well as a coalition of Iraqi resistance factions. Don't forget those guys. Despite deadly and destructive Israeli and U.S. strikes on Yemen, Ansarallah and the YAF's military capabilities remain largely unaffected. I'm sure that pisses off a lot of people in the U.S. military and in Israel. It's like it's like one of those tardigrades. It's like you can't kill it. You freeze it, you burn it, you could laser it. It ain't happening. Meanwhile, talks with Pakistan are underway in Doha, according to a Taliban government source. So Afghan and Pakistan engaged in ceasefire talks as tensions flare along the border. Wars and rumors of wars. Isn't that what he's saying, that at the end of days? Afghan-Pakistani talks are taking place in Doha. A Taliban government source confirmed to Al-Mayadeen. The source stated that a delegation from the Taliban government in Kabul is set to depart from Doha this evening or tomorrow to participate in the talks, adding that the issue of extending the ceasefire will be on the agenda for discussion. Earlier yesterday, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif expressed Islamabad's readiness for talks with Afghanistan to resolve their conflict, following a temporary ceasefire which halted days of fierce fighting between the former allies and has since largely held. insisting that the initiative now lay with the Afghan side. Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif stated, if they want to talk on our valid conditions and want to resolve through dialogue, we are ready for that, adding, this message has been given to them yesterday. Now the ball is in their court. If this ceasefire is done just to buy time, we will not accept it, the Pakistani Prime Minister emphasized. There was no immediate response from Kabul to his remarks, as Afghan Defense Ministry spokesperson Inayatullah Khwarazmi would only confirm that the ceasefire was holding so far. Basically, if you can pronounce those names, the ceasefire will hold. A statement from the Afghan Taliban Interior Ministry indicated that Interior Minister Khalifa Sirajuddin Haqqani, during a meeting with senior Iranian officials, conveyed that Afghanistan seeks good relations with all countries, especially its neighbors. Just as we respect the sovereignty and dignity of others, we expect the same goodwill and respect towards us, the statement says. The recent friction between the two Islamic countries erupted after Islamabad demanded that Kabul take action to rein in militants who had stepped up attacks in Pakistan, alleging that they were operating from havens in Afghanistan. The Taliban has rejected these allegations, counter-accusing the Pakistani military of disseminating false information about Afghanistan, escalating tensions along the border and providing sanctuary to ISIS-affiliated militants in an effort to destabilize the country and violate its sovereignty. According to the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, that's UNAMA, the fighting that began on October 10th has resulted in at least 18 civilian deaths and left more than 360 others wounded. Pakistan has announced the killing of 34 militants in 3 separate military operations conducted this week. Bashir Ahmad, a doctor at Emergencies Surgical Center in Kabul, which is a facility for war victims, reported that 34 people with numerous wounds, including fractures to the head and legs and severe burns, were brought there following the strike. Everything suddenly went dark. The house across from our office was completely destroyed by the rocket from the top floor down to the ground floor, he said. Yeah, so now you got Afghanistan and Pakistan mixing it up. Because, yeah, we needed more of that. Your keyboard's about toast. What's going on? There's mice on Quaaludes, and now there's keyboards on crack. What's going on? Things are getting serious, y'all. I mean, if they weren't serious before, they sure as hell are now. So what about Syria and Russia? You know, they got a base. Russia's got a base in Syria. Now Syria is all kerfuffle with all the not being together kind of thing. But Syrian president promises to redefine relations with Russia in historic meeting with Putin. Putin must be really short, because these people are not all that tall. Or maybe they are. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara has promised to redefine his country's relations with Russia during a meeting with Putin in Moscow. The televised meeting between the two on Wednesday comes as Syria continues to call for the extradition of former President Bashar al-Assad, whom Shara and his allies overthrew in December. Putin warmly welcomed Shara to the Kremlin in front of the cameras, despite the two having previously been on opposing sides of Syria's 14-year civil war. Yeah, because they were Putin was backing Assad when he was in power. Throughout all these decades, we have always been guided by one thing: the interests of the Syrian people, Putin said. We truly have very deep ties with the Syrian people. Shara, for his part, said continuing relations would have to emphasize Syria's sovereignty, hinting at the numerous countries that became involved in the civil war. Now, you might want to talk to Israel about that. We're trying to restore and redefine in a new way the nature of these relations, so there is independence for Syria, sovereign Syria, and also its territorial unity and integrity and its security stability, he said. Despite the warm words, the status of Assad, a staunch ally of Putin, remains a sticking point. The Syrian officials told AFP that Damascus would ask Moscow to hand over Assad this week, as well as all those who have committed war crimes and are in Russia. As of late afternoon, no Russian or Syrian leader had publicly addressed this issue. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday reaffirmed that Moscow had offered Assad and his family asylum for purely humanitarian reasons, and that they were living in the Russian capital. Apart from the fate of the former Syrian leader, there is also the question of the Russian military bases in Tartus and located located on the Mediterranean coast and constituting Russia's only official military outposts outside the former USSR. There is no single agreed-upon number for the number of casualties that Russia's involvement in Syria's civil war caused, but estimates from different human rights groups and monitoring watchdogs puts the number of civilian deaths in the range of 4,000 to 9,000. So what to do? That is a sticky situation for Russia and Syria, right? You got Syria, who's being threatened with no-fly zones by Israel. You got Russia still in the mix. And, yeah, it's a bit of a sticky wicket, as our British friends would like to say. So you guys remember the Nord Stream pipeline? Poop. Went teats up thanks to some sabotage. Well, the FSB in Russia is warning London and Kiev are planning a sabotage of the Turk Stream pipeline. What's that? What? UK and Ukrainian intelligence agencies are planning to attack a major Russian-Turkish gas pipeline. Alexander Bortnikov, head of the Russian Federal Security Service, that's the FSB, I guess that's their FBI, I guess, stated yesterday, we have information that the British, together with Ukrainian intelligence, are preparing sabotage against the Turk Stream gas pipeline, Bortnikov said. Turk Stream connects Russia's largest gas reserves to the Turkish gas transportation network via the Black Sea, providing energy to Turkey and southern Europe. The Russian intelligence chief also stated that instructors from the British Army's Special Air Services, SAS, and MI6 have planned a series of drone strikes on the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, the CPC. Yeah, you know me. The CPC pipeline transports Caspian oil from the Tengiz oil field in Kazakhstan to the Novorossiysk 2 marine terminal and export terminal at the Russian Black Sea port of Novorossiysk. It made me say that name twice. Bortnikov stated further that UK and Ukrainian intelligence are targeting Russian border areas with drones, boats, and combat divers, including during Operation Spiderweb, which targeted 5 Russian military bases across the country with drones in June. It's kind of cool, Operation Spiderweb. Makes you think of Spider-Man. The operation was conducted, quote, under the direct supervision of British intelligence, quote, just before talks between Russian and Ukrainian delegations in Istanbul, not Constantinople, Bortnikov said. Although that last part was said by They Might Be Giants. He also accused the UK of using provocations and disinformation to undermine peace negotiations between Moscow and Kiev and to provide a pretext for NATO to send troops to Ukraine as part of a no-fly zone. No-fly zone for you. In July 2023, Russia accused UK intelligence of helping Ukraine carry out an attack on the Kerch Bridge, which connects Crimea to mainland Russia. On Sunday, Trumpy said he was considering sending Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine for strikes deep within Russian territory. When asked by reporters on Air Force One whether he would provide Kiev with the long-range missiles, Trump replied, "We'll see. I don't know. It's kind of a thing." The missiles would be a new step of aggression in Ukraine's war with Russia, he added. Or somebody added that can actually speak English. Overnight on Wednesday, Russia fired more than 300 drones and about 36 missiles at targets throughout the Ukraine, including energy infrastructure and emergency services. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, "They are wounded," Zelensky said on social media. in that voice. Recovery efforts are underway everywhere. Emergency services are working. I need more cocaine. He didn't say that last part, but it's implied. So, you know, Canada has a lot of Earl. They got a lot of Earl up there. Kate, you know about this, about the Canadian Earl. I think they're the tar. They do tar sands up there, right? I think so. I don't know. But China says, come on, baby. We don't need the United States. Why don't you give me all that sweet, sweet Earl? So China breaks record for Canadian oil imports, shuns U.S. crude. Texas tea. Canadian oil exports to China are set to reach record highs this month, with nearly 5 million barrels shipped from Vancouver to in the first half of October, according to a Bloomberg report on yesterday, citing vessel tracking data from Vortexa. More than 70% of oil tankers leaving British Columbia have sailed for China, while the rest either headed to the U.S. West Coast or left without a listed destination. The surge marks China's steep pivot away from U.S. crude as trade tensions escalate. Beijing recently imposed retaliatory port fees on vessels linked to the U.S., driving up freight costs for U.S. oil shipments to Asia. At the same time, Chinese buyers have been stockpiling more than 500,000 barrels of foreign crude per day, taking advantage of discounted Russian and Iranian oil. The trend underscores Beijing's determination to maintain energy security by strengthening ties with nations targeted by Washington's economic coercion and diversifying its import routes to shield the economy from U.S.-imposed trade disruptions. Vancouver crude has now begun trading at a premium to Canadian barrels sent south through pipelines to Texas ports, the first such shift since at least September 2024. Data from Argus shows. Arg-meaty. Comparable heavy grades from West Asia have also become more costly relative to Brent benchmark, even as OPEC Plus expands output. If you know what that means, let me know. Beijing's position on U.S. sanctions and trade restrictions remained defiant. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian denounced Washington's pressure to curb Russian oil sales as a typical example of unilateral bullying and economic coercion. He said China's energy cooperation with Moscow is normal and legitimate under international law, and warned of firm countermeasures if its interests are threatened. China's expanding energy footprint has alarmed U.S. officials, who see it as a part of a wider strategy to secure influence across West Asia and the Pacific. Analysts say Washington's campaign of maximum pressure on Iran seeks to choke off one of Beijing's key oil suppliers, a move that could deepen the divide between the two powers. So, yeah, movers and shakers as the United States does their bullshit. And especially like these BRICS countries, they're starting to find ways to maneuver around sanctions and whatnot. So the U.S. thinks they're smart, but the rest of the world knows they're smarter. Meanwhile, in Tunisia, thousands protest in, is that Gabes or Gabas? I'm going to say Gabas. In Gabas against chemical plant pollution. Several thousand residents staged a demonstration in Gabas, a city in southern Tunisia, on Wednesday to demand the closure of a chemical complex after numerous cases of intoxication in recent weeks. Probably not the intoxication you and I are thinking about. On Tuesday, dozens of people living near the Tunisian chemical group, the GCT, including school children, suffered fainting fits attributed to the plant, which produces phosphate-based fertilizers. Footage posted on social media shows unconscious young people being carried by firefighters or transported in an ambulance with oxygen masks over their faces. According to a local official, 122 people were treated or hospitalized, the AFP news agency reported, including cases of suffocation, leg pain, and numbness. This was the third such episode since early September, following the hospitalization of around 20 people on September 9th and 50 more on October 10th. The rise in cases has rekindled anger among Gabas residents who have long denounced GCT's pollution of their environment, from beaches strewn with waste and the collapse of the fishing industry to polluted groundwater and air saturated with chemicals. Residents say the pollution has caused respiratory illnesses and an unusually high rate of cancer in a population already burdened by structural inequality and poverty. The crowd on Wednesday was the largest since protests began in the southern coastal city last Friday, with residents turning out in response to a call from the Stop Pollution Collective. Gabas wants to breathe. The people want the dismantling of polluting plants, and we have the right to live in a clean city, chanted the protesters, who included families with children. Tunisians elsewhere in the country have shown their support online with the hashtag #WeAreAllGabas. When the protesters arrived near the immense plant on Tuesday, police fired large amounts of tear gas to disperse the crowd, causing several people to faint. How ironic, since they're protesting chemicals that make you faint. Last Saturday, during another demonstration, protesters were also dispersed with tear gas as police and army units were deployed. The use of force sparked outrage, with many observers and activists denouncing a disproportionate response to a peaceful citizen movement. While various environmental issues, including water shortages, have driven Tunisians to demonstrate in recent years, the protests are often met with repression from the authorities. Yeah, you can't protest anymore without, Johnny Law getting up in your grill. In June, 3 protesters who participated in a demonstration in Gabas were arrested and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 2 to 4 months for disturbing public order. An Amnesty International report published that month denounced the repression of environmental activists in the country who are arrested, investigated, or persecuted for peaceful protesting. Since the coup carried out by President Kais Saied in 2021, Tunisia has experienced an authoritarian regression, with several dozen activists, journalists, and politicians imprisoned. On Sunday, 25 local NGOs, including the Tunisian Human Rights League, called for the dismantling of polluting plants and the establishment of a regional development model as an alternative to slow death and pollution. In response to the protests, Said criticized the lack of maintenance at the 53-year-old plant and dispatched a team from the Industry and Environment Ministries. The president, who earlier this month had denounced what he called an ecological assassination in Gabas, affirmed his commitment to promoting a green Tunisia free of all pollution. However, with phosphate as Tunisia's main natural resource, the state finds itself torn between a desire to develop the strategic sector amid an economic crisis and its 2017 commitment to gradually close the Gabas plant. Although phosphogypsum, a waste product from phosphate fertilizer production, was previously classified as hazardous, the government reclassified it in March as a material that can be exploited under certain conditions. Still poisonous or hazardous, but, Said also ordered the resumption of phosphate production and a near 5-fold increase in fertilizer production to 14 million tons per year by 2030 to capitalize on rising global prices. Fuck your breathing. We're making money, son. We're making money. You want us to stop? You want us to stop making money because you can't breathe? So if you're familiar with Argentina and Javier Milei, Mr. Libertarian, gonna take a chainsaw austerity, he's begging for money. That seems to be a trend these days. People begging for money when they don't really know what to do with it. So much for America First. Trump administration says Argentina bailout doubling to $40 billion. Reality once again clashed uncomfortably with Argentinian President Javier Milei's so-called libertarian revolution Wednesday, as the Trump administration said it is working to double a $20 billion private sector bailout to prop up the South American nation's moribund currency amid enduring high poverty and inflation and broader economic fragility. Just a reminder, $20 billion a year in the United States can solve homelessness. That's all you need. Don't need that much. Gail Egregois, hello. Good to see you. I hope you're well, my friend. Ooh, excuse me. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters in Washington, D.C. Wednesday that the $20 billion currency swap, essentially a loan, wink, 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 wink. Ow, I hurt my eye winking. For Argentina, announced last month, would be a total of $40 billion, with funding coming from banks and sovereign wealth funds to enable the country to pay off its more than $300 billion in external debt. The bailout is aimed at boosting Argentina's flagging peso. You know, I had a flagging peso once, but the doctor said, take this blue pill, you'll be fine. Wait, what? Oh, I'm sorry, that was something else. Which has fallen by nearly 1/4 against the U.S. dollar this year. A decade ago, $1 was equal to 18 pesos. Today, a single dollar will buy 1,361 pesos. That's a loss of more than 99% in value over the past 10 years. Although poverty in Argentina has fallen significantly from over 50% shortly after Milei's election, around 30% of Argentinians remain poor, and prices and inflation are again rising significantly. While Milei has drastically slashed inflation, the reduction has come via the devaluation of the peso and massive cuts in government spending, including the evisceration of social programs, resulting in more expensive housing, healthcare, and education. We're Americanizing Argentina. Make everything more expensive. Yeah. Changing your name to Throw. I am too. And then I'm going to change my last name to Up. Some people say, ooh, it's Throw Up. Gross. Bessent's announcement comes ahead of Argentina's October 26 midterm elections that will test the mandate from Milei, an admirer and close ally of Trumpy, to continue with his slash-and-burn approach to streamlining government. While meeting with Milei at the White House Tuesday, Trump said the bailout is contingent upon the Argentine president remaining in power, and also if he keeps those wicked sideburn chops. If he loses, we're not going to be generous with Argentina, Trump told reporters. I think he's going to win, and if he wins, we're staying with him, and if he doesn't win, we're gone. Well, yeah, because then you're not going to have a puppet to control. Of course you're going to be gone. The combination of fiscal austerity, gutting of government agencies, dangerous deregulation, inflation, and currency devaluation have caused Milei's unfavorability rating to soar to over 60% in some polls, its highest level ever. Milei, a self-described anarcho-capitalist who was elected in November 2023 on a wave of populist revolution at the status quo, you know things must have been really bad if you're voting for this guy to come in. Milei campaigned on a platform of repairing the moribund economy. He hasn't. Tackling inflation. He hasn't. Reducing poverty. He hasn't. And dismantling the state, which he's trying to do. He made wild promises, including dollarizing Argentina's economy and abolishing the central bank. However, the realities of leading South America's second largest economy have forced Milei's administration to abandon or significantly curtail key agenda items, leading to accusations of neoliberalism and betrayal from the right and hypocrisy and rank incompetence from the left. Let's not get confused. Milei went to beg for money and a photo of Trump because his economic plan failed, Argentine lawmaker Emilio Manzo said Tuesday. Manzo. I call upon the powers of Manzo. Manzo! Another lawmaker, Margarita Stolbizer, said on social media Tuesday that freedom is crawling. Trump tells us Argentines that if we don't vote for Milei, we'll be punished, she added. The interference is absolute. The libertarian surrender is total. Let's have confidence in the pride of our people. We are millions who don't want to be told what we have to do. U.S. singer and political commentator Blakely Bartley skewered Milei, the based anarcho-capitalist conservative, in a social media post on Wednesday. I guess she said, remember how conservatives all push Javier Milei as a based Doge conservative? Now corrupt Trump is helping corrupt Milei in $20 billion bailout with American taxpayer money. Well, federal money, not necessarily taxpayer money. Big difference. Conservative economics continue to be proven failure throughout the world. And she says some stuff there. He was going to get in power, cut government spending, Bartley continued. Remember, all your favorite right-wingers in American media said, you got to support him, man. He's a base conservative that's going to save Argentina. What's that? Bartley added. Oh, that's right. He drove the economy into the fucking ground, and now he needs a welfare check from Daddy America. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Is that what they say? Pull yourself up. Others, ranging from progressives angry over tens of billions of dollars being spent on foreign bailouts while so many people are struggling and suffering in the U.S., to hardcore MAGA supporters, are asking, how is bailing out Argentina America first? Well, they both begin with A. A first. Trump wants to double Argentina's bailout to $40 billion to save his political ally, said Bernie Sanders on social media. Yet he is doing nothing to prevent 15 million Americans from losing their health care and 20 million from seeing a doubling in their premiums. Is that what Trump means by America first? Don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. Senator Elizabeth Warren, the snake, says, apparently $20 billion of our taxpayer money, it's not taxpayer money, it's federal money, wasn't enough to bail out Argentina. Now Trump wants U.S. banks to divert another $20 billion away from lending to American businesses, farmers, and families to prop up Milei's corrupt presidency and failing economy. Former U.S. Labor Secretary and former Hobbit Robert Reich said, so much for America first. John Bartum, a soybean farmer from Illinois, slammed the bailout in a Tuesday interview with the Daily Beast, noting that Trump's $20 billion lifeline enabled Milei to lower his country's export tax, leading to China buying 7 million tons of Argentinian soybeans at the expense of the U.S. Womp, womp. This as American soybean farmers reel from Trump's tariff war with China, which until recently was the world's leading buyer of the top U.S. export crop. MAGA, Barnum says, now means make Argentina great again. I see what I did there, see? Because it's MAGA, and they both begin with A. I already said that. So, yeah. Anybody, yeah, exactly. It's a, if you know what modern monetary theory is, which I learned about in the last couple years, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, it's not something that we should do. It's something we're doing. That's why you can have $1 trillion military budget. As long as your dollar is sound, right? I think that's how that works. Your fiat currency. So, yeah. Help a brother out. What does that reminds me of? What is it? Oh, man. Arthur 2. Arthur 2 on the Rocks, where the video... the movie poster had Dudley Moore with a sign that said, excuse me, brother, can you spare $300 million? Because that's what he lost, and he was poor, and he was trying to be. Anyway, we don't need any Arthur. We don't need any references to Arthur, I think. This crowd's probably a little young for that. There's a couple older ones there might get it, but, is it really worth it? Probably not. So what about all these people that's getting blowed up in boats down near Venezuela? Well, Trinidad and Tobago. Is that what you say? And because like they're it's one thing. Probes deaths in U.S. airstrike near Venezuela. So calling bullshit on the U.S. Look at that. TNT. Authorities in Trinidad and Tobago have launched an investigation into whether 2 of its nationals were killed. Were among 6 individuals killed in a U.S. airstrike on a vessel allegedly transporting drugs from Venezuela, police told AFP on Thursday. They never have proof. They never have proof. According to Trumpy, the strike targeted narco terrorists operating in international waters, accusing them of attempting to smuggle narcotics from Venezuela to the U.S. Of course, no evidence has been provided to support this claim or any of these claims. Police in Trinidad and Tobago said residents of Las Cuevas village reported that 2 locals were believed to have been aboard the sunken boat. However, their deaths have not yet been confirmed by authorities. Among those feared dead is 26-year-old Trinidadian fisherman Chad Joseph. His mother, Lenore Burnley, told AFP by phone that relatives in Venezuela informed the family that he was on the vessel. According to maritime law, if you see a boat, you are supposed to stop the boat and intercept it, not just blow it up. That's our Trinidadian maritime law, and I think every fisherman and every human knows that, she stated. Burnley added that her son had been staying with family in Venezuela just 11 kilometers away and was planning to return to Trinidad and Tobago. Local media also identified a second possible victim from Las Cuevas, known to residents as Samaru. In response to the U.S. military buildup in the region, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Wednesday ordered large-scale military exercises, stating that the army, police forces, and a civilian militia would be mobilized to defend the country from foreign aggression. Okay, cool. Yay! Yeah, the first one was good. The second one, yeah. The airstrike is one of several recent attacks carried out by the U.S. near Venezuelan waters. At least 27 individuals have been killed in similar incidents, which the Trump administration claims are part of efforts to combat drug trafficking networks operating between Venezuela and the U.S. The targeting of a civilian vessel and the possible deaths of foreign nationals have raised questions about the legality of such operations under international and Trinidadian maritime law. On Tuesday, the U.S. targeted a vessel off the coast of Venezuela with an airstrike, killing 6 and marking the 5th operation of this kind in a recent push of American aggressions against Latin America under the excuse of combating narco trafficking. It's Hamas. No, wait, it's Hezbollah. No, wait, it's Houthis. No, it's heroin. It's heroin. There we go. We got another H in there. Trump stated in a Truth Social post announcing the operation that the vessel was affiliated with a designated terrorist organization, adding that intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics, was associated with illicit narco-terrorist networks, and was transiting along a known DTO route. To reiterate, no proof. They could say, remember that intelligence said that Iraq was building a nuclear bomb. You remember that with the tubes? They found the tubes. Yeah, intelligence is not intelligent. To date, the death toll as a result of such attacks has risen to at least 27, and neither Trump nor other heads in the U.S. State Department released information as to who those on board these vessels were, nor did they confirm the alleged ties it had with narco-trafficking networks. Wait, what happened? What happened? Okay. We still on here? Okay, all right. Whew. That scared me a little bit. All right. So, and the other time, okay. So, yeah. So, how long is this going to happen? How long is, the southern continent going to put up with this bullshit? Blowing up speedboats with no proof at all that there's drugs on board these boats. And Trump's going to keep doing it till some court or somebody else stops him. Go Start says, 8 million Venezuelans have joined the nation's citizen reserve and militia. 8 million. They remade Arthur. Oh, that's right, with Russell Brand. Blech. Yeah, don't remake shit. That's just, come on. That's a lack of imagination. That's just a cash grab. Meanwhile, Trump authorities authorizes CIA covert operations in Venezuela as he weighs direct attack. Trumpy has authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations in Venezuela, deepening the U.S.'s entanglement in the oil-rich South American country in a move that recalls American shadow wars of the 1970s and 80s. Remember those? The shadow wars? Ooh. Trump confirmed media reports on Wednesday that he had authorized the CIA to conduct a range of secret activities which spanned from paramilitary operations to economic and media warfare that could be used to create instability and eventually topple the government of leftist President Nicolas Maduro. I authorized for 2 reasons, Trump said when asked about the reports. He said that Maduro had directed Venezuelan prisoners into the U.S. and added that we have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela. While global observers have been consumed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Israel's genocide in Gaza, the U.S. has slowly amassed a military armada in the Caribbean, or the Caribbean, however you want to say it. The U.S. has deployed guided missile destroyers, F-35 jet fighters, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and special operations vessels to the Caribbean Sea in what the Wall Street Journal reported is the largest American military buildup in the area since the 1989 invasion of Panama, dun, 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 Panama, Panama. You have to do that. Give it some time at the end. Some of the vessels are capable of launching Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of 2,500 kilometers. There are at least 10,000 troops in the region. The U.S. has been launching airstrikes off the coast of Venezuela against what it claims to be drug smuggling ships with no proof. Maduro's government has denied the allegations and says the strikes are part of an effort to stage a regime change. At least one of the 5 vessels the U.S. bombed in international waters was attacked as it was sailing back to the Venezuelan coast, the Wall Street Journal reported. So they're blowing up boats that are delivering drugs to themselves. Is that how that works? Max RJ in the house. What's up? Good to see you. 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 Trump said Wednesday that he was weighing attacking Venezuela directly. We're certainly looking at land now because we got the sea very well under control. We've almost totally stopped it by sea. Now we'll stop it by land. Maybe we'll stop it by air, or maybe we'll just stop it with our minds. I added that last part. Asked if he had given the CIA authority to take out Maduro, Trump replied, "That's a ridiculous question for me to be given. Not really a ridiculous question, but wouldn't it be a ridiculous question for me to answer? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a question, isn't it? It should be ridiculous." What the fuck kind of statement is that? That's a ridiculous question for me to be given. Not really a ridiculous question, but wouldn't it be a ridiculous question for me to... The fuck... Trump has shown no hesitation on deploying military force with dozens of people killed in strikes against civilian boats, despite running for election as a non-interventionist candidate, promising to end forever wars. Everybody forgot about the fingers crossed behind the thing. What happened? Why am I dark? I really got to fix this stuff. Although some Republican and Democratic members of Congress have expressed concern over Trump's use of force in the Caribbean, they have put no real impediments in his path. Of course they haven't. Under the U.S. Constitution, the president is commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but Congress has the power to declare war. After World War II, U.S. presidents across the political aisle vastly expanded their ability to launch military operations without explicit congressional approval. Yeah, they were starting to use those police actions. Remember police actions? That's what Korea was. That was a police action. Trump's justification for military action in Venezuela is particularly opaque. Earlier in October, the Trump administration sent notices to Congress claiming extraordinary wartime powers on the grounds that drug cartels in Venezuela were engaging in hostilities against the U.S. Trump labeled the drug cartels terrorist organizations and said the strikes were being conducted in self-defense. Oh, self-defense! You mean like Israel? Yeah. Self-defense against boats that have fish in them. South America was a hotbed for U.S. covert operations, coups, and proxy wars during the Cold War. In 1954, the CIA orchestrated a coup in Guatemala. In 1973, it supported a coup that put Augusto Pinochet in power in Chile. I always said China. In the 80s, the CIA trained, armed, and financed Contra fighters against the Sandinista government of Nicaragua. That covert war spilt over into the Middle East, with the Reagan administration secretly selling arms to the Islamic Republic of Iran in a bid to secure the release of U.S. citizens during the Iran hostage crisis. Profits from the sales were used to fund the Contra fighters. Maduro has governed Venezuela since the death of Hugo Chavez in 2013. He tolerates little dissent and has snuffed out opposition parties, including those backed by the U.S. He has ordered military exercises among civilians in preparation for a potential invasion. No to war in the Caribbean, no to regime change, no to coup d'etat orchestrated by the CIA, Maduro said in an address on Wednesday. Interesting. Yeah, so Maduro knows what's going on. He knows they're trying to take him out. And I'm sure Hugo Chavez had taught him a few things too. Like these gringos start fucking with you. This is what they're going to do. So, you know, Trumpy has designated Antifa a terrorist organization, even though Antifa is short for anti-fascist, and it's just a state of being. It's not necessarily an organization or even close to being an organization. Yet, it's going to be a tool. It's a vague enough tool to bring everybody in, control dissent, that sort of thing. So, and we got one of our first cases. Antifa-aligned men face terrorism charges in July ICE attack, FBI director says. The Department of Justice brought terrorism-related charges, against two people allegedly aligned with Antifa, who participated in an attack on an immigration facility in Texas that left an officer with a gunshot wound. A Texas grand jury on Thursday charged Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evitz with providing material support to terrorists. There we go. In July, the two were arrested with 8 others and charged with attempted murder and weapons offenses. The indictment claims 2 men were part of an Antifa cell that planned and carried out an attack on Prairieland Detention Center outside of Dallas-Fort Worth area on July 4th. Antifa cell. First time ever, the FBI arrested Antifa-aligned anarchists, violent extremists, and terrorism charges have been brought for the July 4th Prairieland ICE attacks in Texas. FBI director and rejected Muppet Kash Patel said in a statement on October 16th, that's yesterday, "No one gets to harm law enforcement, not on my watch." How would he know? He's looking over here, he's looking over there. The indictment comes after Trumpy designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization, vowing to go after its funding as part of a broader crackdown on left-leaning groups. Antifa, short for anti-fascist, is not an organized political group in the traditional sense, or in any sense, experts say. It's considered a decentralized movement that has no unifying organizational structure or detailed ideology, according to the U.S. Congressional Research Service, the independent research arm of Congress. Patrick J. McLean, an attorney representing Evitz, said his client will plead not guilty to the charges in the indictment, including providing material support to terrorists. McLean said Evitz was not part of a coordinated attack and refuted the government's claim that he was an Antifa cell member. Antifa cell member. Evitz did not have a firearm on his person at all, and he did not assist, encourage, or otherwise promote the use of firearms that night, McLean told USA Today, adding Evitz didn't want to cause anybody harm, quite the opposite. Arnold's attorney, Cody L. Kofer, said there's an absence of evidence. Well, yeah, that's the Trump administration for you right there, absence of evidence, tying his client to any criminal wrongdoing, and he looks forward to a speedy and public trial. Yeah, he looks forward to it, but will he get it? Maybe not. The indictment claims that ahead of the July 4th incident, a group of people aligned with Antifa, lowercase, used an encrypted messaging app to discuss the layout of the Prairieland facility, the location of nearby police stations, and what materials to bring to the facility, including firearms. At least 11 people dressed in black arrived at the facility late on Independence Day, including some wearing body armor and carrying firearms, the indictment says. At some point, some members of the group began shooting fireworks at the U.S. ICE facility. After an Alvarado police officer arrived at the scene, at least one person associated with the group opened fire and struck the officer in the neck. According to the indictment, the officer fell to the ground but fired back before he was rushed to the hospital and treated for his wounds. Prosecutors said dozens of rounds were fired during the incident. The building and several police vehicles were vandalized with graffiti slogans, including traitor and Ice Pig. Ice Pig, the rejected DC character for the Justice League, apparently. Within days, at least 10 people, including Arnold and Evitz, were arrested and charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer and 3 counts of using a firearm in committing a violent crime. Evitt's lawyer said the people outside the ICE facility were loosely affiliated and mostly don't know each other well, though they all have a common interest in protesting government overreach. McClain said he reviewed the chat mentioned in the indictment and said it contained messages in which several people advised not to bring firearms to the demonstration. He said Evitt was there exercising his First Amendment rights and believed his clients would be acquitted. We're going to work very hard to make sure that we move forward toward an acquittal, he said. The evidence does not show, certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt, that Mr. Evitz committed any offenses. So they're trying to pin what happened on July 4th on Antifa. Antifa. Yeah. Here we go. You knew it was going to do, they were going to do some dumb shit like this too. You knew this. You know they were going to take something that sounded stupid and then turn it into something like, oh shit. Yeah, exactly. If you're not in opposition to fascism, you're contributing to it in one way or another. So meanwhile, here in Chicago, a U.S. judge has ordered Chicago immigration officers to wear body cams amid protests. Wait, what? ICE wear body cams? A U.S. federal judge yesterday ordered federal immigration officers in the Chicago area to start wearing body cameras following incidents where agents deployed tear gas and used other aggressive tactics against protesters. Judge Sarah L. Ellis issued the ruling in a Chicago courtroom after recent clashes between immigration agents and residents of the city's southeast side, during which agents reportedly used tear gas and other chemical weapons, USA Today reported. The decision follows Ellis's temporary restraining order on October 9th that restricted the use of non-lethal weapons by immigration officers against civilians. Ellis expressed deep concern over recent events, saying she was profoundly concerned about what has been happening over the last week since I entered this order, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. I live in Chicago. If folks haven't noticed, and I'm not blind, I tend to get news, she added. The federal court's decision comes in the midst of President Trump's Operation Midway Blitz, an immigration enforcement crackdown in the Chicago area that the administration claimed targets, quote, the worst of the worst criminal immigrants. Ellis's October 16th order modifies a previous ruling from October 9th issued in response to a lawsuit by clergy, protesters, and journalists who claim federal agents unjustly used chemical weapons on demonstrators outside a suburban immigration facility. One notable incident referenced was a widely shared video showing a federal agent firing a pepper ball at local pastor Reverend David Black's head. Yikes. Pepper ball. That's like pickleball, only it hurts a lot worse. The site has become a focal point for protests where agents have used about $100,000 worth of non-lethal weapons to stop rioters, in quotes, from disrupting immigration enforcement, Trump administration attorney Eric Hamilton reportedly said during an October 9th hearing on deploying National Guard troops to the area. In court filings, Ellis stated that the use of chemical weapons likely constituted excessive force and described the attack on Black as an unprovoked use of force. The initial court order covering the entire Chicago area requires agents to wear identification and to give 2 warnings before using chemical weapons. You get 2 warnings before you get something illegal shot at you. So, yeah. The fact that they hadn't been wearing cameras is mind-boggling. I mean, I understand why they wouldn't want to wear body cameras because, you know, then they can't do all that heinous shit that they want to do. Here's a fun one. You remember the Walrus? Not from the Beatles, but from Trump's first term. Well, things are a little bit sticky now as ex-Trump advisor John Bolton indicted over handling of classified documents. They were all in his mustache, and no one could see them but him, and his upper lip. A federal grand jury in Maryland has indicted John Bolton, U.S. President Donald Trump's former national security advisor, over his handling of classified documents, charging him with retaining and transmitting national defense information. The indictment filed in federal court in Maryland yesterday charges Bolton with 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of retention of national defense information, all in violation of the Espionage Act. Each count is punishable by up to 10 years in prison if Bolton is convicted, but any sentence would be determined by a judge based on a range of factors. Bolton's lawyer, Abby Lowell, said in a statement that his client did not unlawfully share or store any information. Bolton served as U.S. ambassador to the UN as well as White House National Security Advisor during the Trump's first term before emerging as one of the president's most vocal critics. He described Trump as unfit to be president in a memoir he released last year. There's always a book. The charges come 2 months after FBI agents searched Bolton's home and office seeking evidence of possible violations of the Espionage Act, which make it a crime to remove, retain, or transmit national defense records, according to a partially unsealed search warrants filed in federal court. In his Maryland home, agents seized 2 cell phones, documents and folders labeled Trump 1 through 4 in Roman numerals, and a binder labeled Statements and Reflections to Allied Strikes, according to court documents. Yeah, he will. He'll get a little slap and some tickle action. He'll probably just get a little tickle action. They're not going to slap him. His mustache will slap back. In Bolton's office, agents found records labeled confidential, including documents that referenced weapons of mass destruction, the U.S. mission to the UN, and other materials related to the government's strategic communications, according to court records. The indictment levied Thursday against Bolton transmitted confidential information via personal email, used private messaging accounts to send sensitive documents that were classified as top secret, and illegally retained intelligence documents in his home, according to the Department of Justice. Sending sensitive documents as top secret through private messaging app. Didn't Hegseth do that too? Talking about Yemen? But he's still there. Bolton is accused of sharing more than 1,000 pages of information about government activities with relatives, according to the indictment. His brother, Bob Bolton, is like, I don't believe your bullshit, brother. And he's like, well, sorry, it's true. Bolton is accused of sharing. Okay, so the indictment says the notes Bolton shared with the 2 people included information he gleaned from meetings with senior government officials, discussion with foreign leaders, and intelligence briefings. Prosecutors said a cyber actor tied to the Iranian government hacked Bolton's personal email after he left government service and accessed classified information. It's always an Iranian or a Russian. I'm amazed he wasn't a Russian person. A representative for Bolton told the government about the hack, but did not report that he stored classified information in the email account, according to the indictment. These charges stem from portions of Ambassador Bolton's personal diaries over his 45-year career, records that are unclassified, shared only with his immediate family, and known to the FBI as far back as 2021, Bolton's lawyer Abby Lowell said in an emailed statement. Like many public officials throughout history, Ambassador Bolton kept diaries. That is not a crime. Trump, who campaigned for the presidency on a vow of retribution after facing a slew of legal woes once his first term in the White House ended in 2021, has dispensed with decades-long norms designed to insulate federal law enforcement from political pressures. In recent months, he has actively pushed Attorney General Pam Bondi's Justice Department to bring charges against his perceived adversaries, even driving out a prosecutor he deemed to be moving too slowly in doing so. Asked by reporters at the White House about the Bolton indictment on Thursday, Trump said, "He's a bad guy. Him and that mustache, they're just so bad. They're bad. They're terrible." Bolton served as National Security Advisor during Trump's first term from 2018 to 2019. In that time, he clashed with the president over Iran, Afghanistan, and North Korea before getting fired in 2019. He has subsequently criticized Trump's approach to foreign policy and government, including a 2020 book titled The Room Where It Happened, which portrayed the president as ill-informed on foreign policy. The search warrant affidavit said a National Security Council official had reviewed the book manuscript and told Bolton in 2020 that it appeared to contain significant amounts of classified information, some at a top secret level. Earlier this month, New York Attorney General Letitia James, who led a legal case against Trump over alleged fraud in his businesses, was charged with lying on a mortgage application and drawing accusations of political vindictiveness by the White House. Of course, former FBI Director James Comey was indicted on September 25th on charges of making false statements and obstructing a congressional investigation, which he denies. Trump has feuded with Comey since the Russia investigation, which examined possible ties between Trump's 2016 election campaign and Moscow. The Justice Department has also launched investigations into U.S. Senator Adam Schiff and Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Schiff and Cook have not been charged, and both reject any suggestions of wrongdoing. Hi, my name is James Comey. Hi, James Comey. So, yeah, now he's going after the walrus. There he is. Remember, when you're in prison, John, knock out the biggest guy there. That's how you'll get street cred. Wait, what? How many more of these we got? We got 1, 2, 3. All right, so 3 more here in the news. This is a long one. This is probably going to go past 1 o'clock again. 1 o'clock Central Time. So Trumpy say, "Oh, all these cheap prices. I love all this cheap food and all this cheap stuff. Everything's cheap. Don't you agree? Don't you agree, America?" No. 75% of Americans report higher costs despite Trump's bullshit. 9 months into his return to office, Trumpy continues to insist that U.S. inflation is no longer a concern. "Prices are way down in the U.S., he declared on social media in August, asserting that inflation is virtually over. But a new Harris poll conducted for The Guardian suggests a stark contrast between the administration's rhetoric and the lived reality of most Americans. Yeah, so it's basically his bullshit and reality. According to the survey, 74% of Americans say their monthly household expenses have increased by at least $100 since last year, with some reporting hikes as high as $749. The increase in cost spans across political affiliations, with Democrats, Republicans, and independents all acknowledging a significant rise in living expenses. The latest inflation data shows a decline from 3% annually in January 2025 to 2.9% by August, while far below the 9% peak recorded in 2022. The current rate still exceeds the Federal Reserve's 2% target. So despite marginal improvements in the inflation rate, economic pessimism is rising. The Harris poll found that 54% of U.S. citizens believe the country is in a recession, up from 49% a year ago, and 53% feel the economy is worsening. These figures show a shift, particularly among independent voters who were more aligned with the Republicans last year. In 2020, independents favored Joe Biden by 9%. By 2024, they were split between Biden and Trump, with recent polling now indicating growing discontent with both parties. Yay! It's about time people start figuring out that both parties suck. When asked what's driving price hikes, partisan divisions emerged. 45% of Republicans attributed cost increases to standard annual inflation, while only 22% of Democrats agreed. Instead, 55% of Democrats and independents blamed current government policies. Well, you could just say government policies in general. Economists from the Yale Budget Lab, I used to work there, also point to Trump's tariffs, estimating they are adding an average of $2,300 annually to household costs, roughly $191 per month. Surprisingly, independents were just as likely as Democrats to cite tariffs as a contributing factor, indicating growing awareness of their economic impact. Only about 20% of respondents from all groups blamed corporations for overcharging to increase profits. Well, that should be a little bit more. With the midterm elections in 2026 approaching, the poll suggests a disconnect between voter dissatisfaction and partisan loyalty. While support for Democratic economic policies remains high, overall optimism for the party is waning. Yeah, they have these policies and they don't support their own policies. It's terrible. Optimism for Democrats fell from 37% in 2024 to 25% now, while pessimism rose to 39%. Republican optimism held steady at just over 30%, but internal support among Republican voters, 60%, continues to outpace Democrats at 42%. Among independents, pessimism toward both major parties is nearly equal, 43% for Republicans and 41% for Democrats. Yet when it comes to specific policies, Democrats maintain the edge. A federal ban on price gouging proposed by Kamala Harris, during the 2024 campaign remains the most popular idea, with 45% saying it would strengthen the economy. Trump's most supported policy, eliminating taxes on Social Security, garnered 43%. Other Trump-backed policies, such as mass deportation, tax cuts, and new tariffs, ranked among the least popular, 24, 22, and 22%, respectively. So, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you still have people who see the stock market doing well, and they say, oh, well, the economy must be doing well. No. The stock market is a casino, and the economy is the economy. All right. So let's get those two things straight. So that's not the only thing where prices are going up. Now your health care. I thought the ACA was supposed to help lower bills. Well, I guess they didn't think that far ahead. Yeah, this link is also in the description down below too. So ACA Marketplace preview shows staggering premium spikes due to GOP subsidy cuts. Well, that's part of it. More than 20 million Americans are expected to see their health insurance premiums more than double next year after Republicans refuse to extend a tax credit for those who purchase health insurance on the Affordable Care Act bullshit marketplace. As the GOP remains firm in its stance that it will not vote to extend the credits in order to end the government shutdown, entering its third week and the open enrollment period for ACA insurance fast approaching, Americans in some states are already getting a glimpse into how the price of their insurance will skyrocket in 2026. Or you could just have Medicare for all and eliminate all this dumb shit. On Wednesday, ACA health insurance marketplaces in 6 states, California, Maine, Minnesota, Vermont, Oregon, and Kentucky, launched window shopping tools that allow residents to compare their current insurance premiums with the ones they can expect to pay next year. Increases would be the most drastic for customers making over 400% of the poverty line, which is around 1 million people. They would have to cover the entire cost of premiums and grapple with an 18% jump in overall premium costs. Across each of these states, the advocacy group Protect Our Care found that they found plans that are expected to increase dramatically, sometimes to prices several times higher than they were this year. There is no longer any doubt about the healthcare disaster Republicans have created. Well, Congress has created, said the group's chair, Leslie Dack. Working families can now log onto a computer and see the Republican healthcare betrayal right before our eyes. But the ACA was an Obama thing that he stole from a Republican. Middle-income Americans who are older but not yet old enough to receive Medicare are expected to see the steepest increases in their premiums, sure. According to KFF, when Protect Our Care looked at plans for 60-year-old couples making $85,000 a year, the group found staggering results in each state. In Clay County, Kentucky, the group found that a Clear Silver plan, which charges that couple a premium of $559 per month this year, will cost $2,736, nearly 5 times that amount next year after subsidies expire. In Mission Viejo, California, premiums for the same couple's Anthem Blue Cross Silver plan would more than quadruple from $516 per month this year to $2,188 next year. The same is true in Medford, Oregon, where a Moda Health Silver plan would increase from $622 to $2644. In Burlington, Vermont, an MVP Silver plan that costs $602 per month this year will spike to $2577. Because it's Burlington, it's Vermont, it's the Bernie plan. While these are particularly egregious examples, KFF estimated earlier this month that the average ACA recipient will see their premiums increase by 114% next year, which the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office expects will result in more than 4 million people becoming unable to afford health insurance. State-level estimates for the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, the CBPP, found that across the states that have open window shopping, costs for many families were doubling, tripling, or worse. Residents across the country are beginning to grapple with the extraordinary rise in costs that they're about to face. In Tennessee, where more than 500,000 people pay lower premiums due to the ACA subsidies, a 62-year-old Chattanooga resident, Sherry Roberts, told the Chattanooga Times Free Press that if they were allowed to expire, her current $10 a month premium will explode 100-fold to $1,140 next year. I just had no idea, Roberts said about the expiring tax credits, adding that she sees 8 different specialists for varying health issues and has multiple surgeries planned. I'm not trying to exaggerate, but I might die if I stop going to the doctor. They probably want you to die because, you're not rich. Julia Tilley, a resident of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, told Penn Live/The Patriot News that she fears her premiums will soar as Pennsylvania's insurance department predicts a premium increase of 102% on average for its 530,000 ACA recipients. Though she says she has not yet received a letter from her insurer, Tilley said one of her friends was told their family's premiums were ballooning from $100 to $1,800 a month. There's really no way to prepare for it, Tilley said. I mean, how do you suddenly come up with $15,000 more a year? My husband can't work more because he has a head injury. Tilley said she already works full-time taking care of her adult daughter who has autism. It's not like I can go get another job, she says, so we're stuck. She says she has tried on multiple occasions to reach out to her Republican Congressman, Representative Scott Perry, but has not heard back. Oh, really? Yeah, because probably, the insurance companies are giving him a boatload of money. According to KFF, 57% of ACA recipients live in congressional districts represented by Republicans, and polls by the organization have suggested that failure to extend the subsidies may hurt their electoral chances. A poll from early October found that 78% of adults say that Congress should extend the subsidies, including the vast majority of Democrats and independents, and even 57% of self-identified MAGA Republicans. If the subsidies are not extended, 39% who support extending them have said they'd blame Trumpy, while another 37% said they'd blame Republicans in Congress. Just 22% said they'd blame Democrats. Virtually all marketplace enrollees across states, ages, family sizes, and income levels will see big premium increases, said Gideon Lukens, a senior fellow and director of health policy research for CBPP. These are real people facing real consequences if Congress doesn't act to extend the enhancements as soon as possible. And and I remember back when they were trying to get the ACA off the ground, and they had the stupid mandate where it's like if you didn't have health insurance, you had to pay a penalty every year. And it's like, bitch, if I could afford the penalty, I could probably afford the insurance. But not now. Should have went Medicare for all. Easy, easy, easy. Expand Medicare. That's all you got to do. But did they do it? Nah, not fam. That didn't work. That wouldn't happen. So what about federal workers? Are they getting fired or not? Well, they score a major win as judge temporarily blocks Trump from firing them. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked Trumpy from firing employees of the U.S. government. AP reported the U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston in San Francisco granted a temporary restraining order blocking the massive cuts to the federal workforce the Trump administration has carried out during the current shutdown of the federal government. Ilston argued that a restraining order was justified because the Trump administration's cuts appeared to be politically motivated, and she said evidence would likely show they were carried out illegally. It's very much ready, fire, aim on. You just gotta say ready, aim, fire. You gotta put in that. So it's very much ready, fire, aim on most of these programs, and it has a human cost, she said. It's a human cost that cannot be tolerated. Ilston added that the Trump administration acted as if the laws don't apply to them anymore when they began firing workers. Well, they're not just firing workers, basically anything. According to Bloomberg News, courthouse reporter Zoe Tillman, the U.S. Department of Justice could file an appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals asking for the restraining order to be lifted, although she noted that circuits have been very wary of intervening when it comes to temporary orders. Exactly. Democrats didn't force the vote. So they get a piece, too. They get a piece of the blame. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, and other federal labor unions last week filed lawsuits aimed at blocking the Trump administration's mass firings, which kicked off last Friday when Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought posted on Twitter that reductions in federal workforce had begun. In the wake of Ilston's ruling, AFGE posted a response mocking Vought that simply read, "The temporary restraining order has been granted." Everett Kelly, a national president of AFGE, said the judge's ruling had exposed the Trump administration's attempted mass terminations of federal workers as cruel and unlawful. These are dedicated public servants who keep our nation running, protecting public health, supporting education, ensuring fair housing, and driving economic growth, Kelly said. We're pleased with the court's ruling, halting these unlawful terminations and preventing the administration from further targeting hardworking civil servants during the shutdown. Now, I'm not opposed to going through the government and trimming the fat, right? Because there is a lot of bloat, there's a lot of pork, all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to call it. But that's not what Elon Musk was doing. He made it sound like he was going through there and cutting all this corrupt spending and stuff. And he had no clue what some of this shit was actually for. And you just went in and cut it anyway. So it kind of helps if you know what you're doing before you start cutting shit. Not saying, just saying. All right, that's our news block for today, brought to you by nobody in particular, except you guys. Thank you for coming out. Who all's here? Did anybody sneak in? Anybody? Any sneakies? Where's the sneakies? No sneakies? You guys are all right. Okay, I got everybody. I keep an eye on the shit. Yonina says, still here. They're trying to help me sign up for court-based rent assistance. I have a continuance for November 21st, an interview for project now November 24th, and I'm just holding on. Hold on for dear life, dear. There you go. Hold on for dear life. So Trump's been trying to extort some of these Ivy League schools and trying to get them to straighten up and fly right. And we got a few universities that said, no, thank you.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publishing the same things that are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members even use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I don't know why that does that twice. 3 more top universities reject Trump's extortion compact for funding. I heard about this. 3 more leading U.S. universities have joined the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known as MIT, in rejecting Trumpy's compact that critics have condemned as an extortion agreement and loyalty oath for federal funding. Brown University's Wednesday decision and Thursday announcement from the University of Southern California and the University of Pennsylvania came ahead of the Trump administration's October 20th deadline for the 9 initially invited schools to respond to the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, or CAHE. Although the University of Texas said it was honored to receive the offer, it is not officially signed on to the compact to receive priority access to federal funding and other benefits. Neither has any of the other institutions, the University of Arizona, Dartmouth College, Vanderbilt University, and the University of Virginia. Bloomberg reported Monday that a few days after MIT rebuffed the proposal, the administration extended the offering to all higher education institutions, citing an unnamed person familiar with the matter. Brown's president, Christina Paxson, released her full letter to the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, ding, ding, and other Trump officials on Wednesday. She pointed out that on July 30th, Brown signed a voluntary resolution agreement with the government that advances a number of the high-level principles articulated in the compact while maintaining core tenets of academic freedom and self-governance that have sustained the excellence of American higher education across generations. While a number of provisions in the compact reflect similar principles as the July agreement, as well as our own commitments to affordability and the free exchange of ideas, I am concerned that the compact by its nature and by various provisions would restrict academic freedom and undermine the autonomy of Brown's governance, critically compromising our ability to fulfill our mission, Paxson wrote. While we value our long-held and well-regarded partnership with the federal government, Brown is respectfully declining to join the compact. Penn, also part of the Ivy League, rejected the compact on Thursday in a statement. Its president, Dr. J. Larry Jameson, if his middle name began with a J, he'd be almost J. Jonah Jameson, said that for 285 years, Penn has been anchored and guided by continuous self-improvement, using education as a ladder for opportunity and advancing discoveries that serve our community, our nation, and the world. I have sought input from faculty, alumni, trustees, students, staff, and others who care deeply about Penn with the goal of ensuring that our response reflected our values and the perspectives of our broad community, Jameson detailed. Penn respectfully declines to sign the proposed compact and provided the U.S. Department of Education with focused feedback highlighting areas of existing alignment as well as substantive concerns. At Penn, we are committed to merit-based achievement and accountability, he added. The long-standing partnership between American higher education and the federal government has greatly benefited society and our nation. Shared goals and investment in talent and ideas will turn possibility into progress. So as the Daily Pennsylvanian, the campus newspaper, noted, at a Wednesday meeting, Penn's faculty senate overwhelmingly passed a resolution urging the university to reject the agreement. The compact erodes the foundation on which higher education in the U.S. is built. The October 15th resolution read, the University of Pennsylvania Faculty Senate urges President Jameson and the Board of Trustees to reject it and any other proposal that similarly threatens our mission and values. Penn is the alma mater of Trump and Mark Rowan, a billionaire private equity financier who helped draft the compact. I guess that's him right there. Trump White House told the student newspaper that any higher education institution unwilling to assume accountability and confront these overdue and necessary reforms will find itself without future government and taxpayer support. Do as we say or we take the money. Despite the risk of funding loss, the University of Southern California has also rejected the proposal. In a statement to the campus paper, the Daily Trojan, wow, you'd think that'd be like a newspaper or a magazine about condoms. Interim President Byung-Soo Kim said that although USC has declined to join the proposed compact, we look forward to contributing our perspectives, insights, and Trojan values to an important national conversation about the future of higher education. Critics of the compact have called on educational leaders to oppose it. In a joint statement earlier this month, American Association of University Professors President Todd Wolfson and American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten urged all college and university governing boards, campus administrations, academic disciplinary organizations, and higher education trade groups to reject such collusion with the Trump administration and to stand firmly on the side of free expression in higher education as the anchor of opportunity for all. Acquiescing, they argued, would be a profound betrayal of your students, staff, faculty, and the public, higher education, and our shared democracy, one that would irretrievably tarnish your personal reputation and compromise your institution's legacy. We urge you not to capitulate and not to negotiate, but to unite now in defense of democracy and higher education. So, yeah. And what was it? He threatened Columbia University, too, I believe. And Columbia said, fold like cheap suit. What's up, Captain Peon? You move your fuck. I'm tired of moving my fuck. You move your fuck. My fuck was here first. Wait, what happened? I don't know what we're talking about. Meanwhile, across the pond, Oxford University invested in at least 49 firms linked to illegal Israeli activity. Prim and proper. Oxford University is indirectly invested in at least 49 companies that have been flagged by the UN and human rights organizations for their involvement in illegal Israeli activities in occupied Palestinian territories. Analysis by Middle East Eye has revealed, while the value of the holdings, currently worth more than 219 million pounds or 25.5 million smackaroonies, amounts to a small proportion of Oxford's total $8 billion endowment. Campaigners say it raises questions about the university's commitment to its own ethical guidelines, as well as concerns about how the rest of its wealth, much of it hidden from public scrutiny, is being invested. Oxford's investments in the companies are made through a passive equity tracker fund, which BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, and the university developed in 2020 to screen out firms involved in fossil fuels and controversial weapons. But the index does not exclude those listed on a UN database of companies found to be complicit in violating Palestinian human rights through their ties to illegal Israeli settlements, nor those on the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, that's BDS, campaign's divestment shortlist. Holdings include 4 major Israeli banks, travel sector companies like Expedia Group, Booking Holdings Incorporated, and Airbnb Incorporated, and U.S. technology company Motorola Solutions, which were all named in an updated iteration of the UN database. Israel's largest arms company, Elbit Systems Limited, Palantir Technologies, Rolls-Royce Holdings, IBM Company, and Valero Energy Corp., each on the BDS shortlist, are also in the fund's portfolio. The Oxford BDS Coalition, which includes students and staff at the university, told Middle East Eye, it's completely unacceptable for the University of Oxford to be involved in illegal activities of any kind, even more so for the university to profit from an illegal occupation that has been linked to egregious human rights abuses, including genocide, the most abhorrent of all crimes. The university has been made aware of these links on numerous occasions, so we have to assume that they are knowingly and willingly complicit in these crimes against humanity. The coalition has called on the university to disclose a comprehensive account of its investment holdings and divest from all direct and indirect holdings in arms companies and companies linked to illegal Israeli activity in the occupied Palestinian territories. My mustache itches. I think John Bolton's trying to get out. Stop it. There are now hundreds of university members who have committed to the terms of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, many of them senior academics who are concerned about the legality of Oxford's investments, the coalition said. The university should immediately end its ties with companies complicit in violating human rights and international law. Oxford's investment in an index tracker, which involves funds being invested across a spread of companies according to predetermined criteria, as opposed to individual shares being selected at an investor's discretion, is not unusual. When Middle East Eye contacted Oxford for comment, a university spokesperson noted that many institutions, pension funds, and other pools of capital use indirect trackers, or passive investment. There's no excuse. You should know who you're investing in, passively or aggressively. But the investment, which the university said replaced less than 2% of its total investments, is particularly notable because Oxford helped develop the fund. With the largest endowment of any university in the UK, Oxford would be in a good position to push for change across the entire sector, said Saqib Bhatti, executive director of the U.S.-based Action Center on Race and the Economy. What happened? Oh, yeah. Yonina, that's Captain Peon. He's nutty. If the biggest universities like Oxford were to band together and play a leadership role with other universities in the world with large endowments to say we need to make sure that our investments are mission aligned, and we need to make sure that asset managers are offering mission aligned options for all universities. They could make that happen, Body said. Middle East Eye asked Oxford if it could work with BlackRock on the fund to further screen for companies complicit in illegal Israeli activity, and then they remembered, oh, it's BlackRock. They're all up in that Zionist bullshit. A university spokesperson directed Middle East Eye to BlackRock's website for information about screening and to the university's ethical investment restrictions, which are outlined in the investment policy statement. According to the policy, those restrictions include direct investments in arms manufacturers, tobacco companies, fossil fuel exploration, and extraction companies, or investments in funds which invest primarily in any of those categories. Middle East Eye asked Oxford how its nearly 10,000 pounds, or is that pounds? Indirect investment in Elbit Systems, which has reportedly supplied the Israeli military with missiles, drones, munitions, and artillery systems, aligned with the university's intent to avoid investment in controversial weapons, but did not receive a direct answer. BlackRock declined to comment on the record about the fund and did not answer whether, more generally, the firm could screen for companies involved in Israeli occupation if clients requested it. Noam Perry, strategic research coordinator for the U.S.-based American Friends Service Committee, which tracks corporate complicity in state violence, said it was admirable that Oxford had placed investment restrictions on itself based on ethical grounds. But he added that it was high time to expand these criteria to include companies that consistently, knowingly, and directly enable or facilitate genocide, apartheid, or other war crimes and crimes against humanity. Investing in such companies is clearly inconsistent with the education and research objectives of the university. Implementing such an investment restriction would be as easy for Oxford as it has been to implement its existing restrictions, Perry said. Both the university and BDS coalition members on campus emphasized that the amount of money that Oxford has invested in the BlackRock fund is very small compared to the university's total endowment. But the coalition, which first uncovered and analyzed the fund, says it is important because the vast majority of the rest of the university's company-level holdings have not been disclosed. The group points specifically to the Oxford Endowment Fund, the OEF, an investment vehicle in which the university, most of its colleges, and several external UK charities pool their capital, which the coalition says dwarfs the fund investigated in this article. The OEF is worth over £7 billion as of the most recent report from its manager, Oxford University Endowment Manager, or OUEM. The University of Oxford isn't the only investor in this fund. 31 Oxford colleges also invest through this fund, along with several other trusts and foundations, the group said. The endowment of the collegiate university is the largest endowment in the UK. However, no information is publicly available about the investments of this fund at a company level. The lack of information comes despite over 150 Freedom of Information requests, including to the university's colleges, which the coalition has filed in the past 2 years. Through Freedom of Information requests, the Oxford BDS Coalition has learned that the university and colleges who invest through this fund do not hold this information, the coalition said. The Oxford BDS Coalition is currently appealing a decision by the Information Commissioner's Office, which allows OUEM not to publicly disclose any information beyond what is in their standard reporting and prevents scrutiny of investments in the largest university endowments fund in the UK. Revelations about Oxford's investments come with Israel widely accused, including by the UN's top legal investigative body, of waging a genocidal campaign against Palestinians in Gaza during a 2-year war halted this month by a U.S.-brokered peace deal with Hamas. Yeah, pretty much. All the hoity-toities. Amid a mounting international outcry, in recent weeks, Israel has faced calls to have its national and club football teams barred from European competition and for its participants to be banned from the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest. Aww. Not the song contest. Norway's Sovereign Wealth Fund, the largest in the world with $2 trillion worth of investments in more than 8,600 companies, divested from U.S. construction manufacturer Caterpillar and 5 Israeli firms, including 3 banks held in the BlackRock Fund, over human rights violations. ABP, the largest Dutch pension fund, soon followed, announcing earlier this month that it too had divested from Caterpillar over concerns about the use of the company's equipment in Israel by Gaza, tearing up roads and destroying buildings. In July, UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese released a report which described an ecosystem of companies sustaining Israel's occupation and genocide and called on 60 named companies to cease their dealings with Israel. She specifically noted the role that asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard play as some of the largest institutional investors in many of the companies she named. Through their asset management, they implicate universities, pension funds, and ordinary people who passively invest their savings through the purchase of their funds and electronically traded funds, she wrote. Asked about Oxford's BlackRock investment by MEE earlier this year, she encouraged the university to divest from the flagged firms. By the very fact that you say engaged in companies and in a sector and an ecosystem that is punctuated by international crimes after international crimes enmeshes you into liability, she said. University campuses across the UK have been focal points for pro-Palestinian activism and boycott campaigns over the past 2 years, with various related divestments made at Queen's University Belfast, King's College Cambridge, and Swansea University, University, among others. Body reflected on the destruction of the education sector in Gaza over the past 2 years, suggesting that Oxford should reconsider its purpose. They've destroyed every university in Gaza. They're destroying centuries of scholarship and cultural sites, he said. You don't exist to make money. You exist for a mission to provide education. Not in 2025, Jack. Make money, money, make money, money, money. Make money, money, make money, money, money. That's what it's about, baby. Fuck your health, fuck your education. Give me your damn money. So, I told you earlier, if you were here a few days ago, that they returned Palestinian prisoners, their bodies, the Israelis did, and some of them didn't look quite right, to say the least. As returned Palestinian bodies show signs of torture and execution as Western media silence persists. Of course, they can't talk about their pals. Doctors in Gaza have accused Israel of torturing and executing Palestinians after receiving the mutilated remains of 90 people. As part of a ceasefire deal, 45 of the bodies were returned this week to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, where medics reported that nearly all of them had been blindfolded, had their hands and legs bound, and bore signs of gunshot wounds between the eyes, indicating summary executions. Almost all of them had been blindfolded, had gunshots between the eyes. Almost all of them had been executed, said Dr. Ahmed Al-Farah, head of the pediatrics department at Nasser Hospital. He added that the bodies also showed signs of extensive beatings and post-mortem abuse. Ugh. Messing with them after they're dead. Well, yeah, they can be both. They could be hostages and prisoners. The transfer of the remains was arranged via the International Committee of the Red Cross, which has overseen the reciprocal return of Israeli and Palestinian dead as part of the U.S. brokered truce. Excuse me. While Hamas handed over the remains of several Israeli hostages, Israel returned 2 batches of 45 Palestinian bodies, which had been kept in refrigeration units in undisclosed locations. According to Nasser Hospital officials, Israel provided no names for the deceased, only numbered labels. Gaza's bombed-out medical infrastructure currently lacks DNA capabilities, and families are being asked to help identify the remains of their loved ones. This is not the first time Israel has been accused of killing Palestinians execution style. Back in March, 15 medics and rescue workers were found in a shallow grave, all with bound limbs and gunshot wounds to the head. That massacre is also being examined as part of the International Criminal Court's ongoing war crimes probe. That's the ICC to you and me. Yet, despite mounting evidence of a systematic extrajudicial killings, torture, and desecration of Palestinian bodies, Western media have largely remained silent. Critics have pointed out that when Palestinians are mentioned at all, it's often only to serve as a backdrop to narratives that humanize the very Israeli soldiers accused of carrying out massacres, casting them as psychologically scarred participants in war crimes. Yeah. As CNN underlined the double standard, headlined, "Haunted by what they've seen and done, Israeli soldiers battle trauma and suicide." It portrays the same soldiers accused of mass killings as broken men struggling to cope. The piece includes emotional accounts of sleepless nights, flashbacks, and overwhelming guilt, but makes no mention of the suffering inflicted on Palestinians. Instead, readers are asked to empathize with troops who describe putting their emotions in boxes, even as mounting evidence points to war crimes. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to kill all those kids. Oh, wait, I did, but I didn't. But I did, but I didn't. You get no sympathy. And this is all part of the fuckery of Israel lying to people. This is another example. A Gaza man reunited with his family after being told in prison, in the Israeli prison, that they were dead. This is how heartless these people are. Well, when you're in prison, somebody told you your family was dead, you'd be like, what? And you didn't know till you got out of the prison, years later. Shadi Abu Sido said his world shattered in Israeli detention when guards told him his wife and 2 children had been killed in the Gaza war. "I got hysterical," the Gaza Palestinian photographer said. It wasn't until his release on Monday, part of the U.S.-mediated ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel that halted 2 years of war, temporarily, that he discovered his loved ones were still alive. His wife, Hannah Balul, raced down the hallway of his family's house in Khan Yunis and leapt into his arms. He spun her in the air as they clung to each other. Abu Sido kissed his children's cheeks again and again, murmuring "my love" as he held the daughter and son he thought he would never see again. "I heard her voice. I heard the voice of my children. I was astonished. It cannot be explained. They were alive. I saw my wife and children alive. Imagine amid death, life," he said. Abu Sido, a photojournalist, said he was detained at Shifa Hospital in the northern Gaza Strip on March 18th last year. He was among 1,700 Palestinians detained by Israeli forces during the devastating war in Gaza and released on Monday, along with 250 prisoners convicted or suspected of involvement in deadly attacks in exchange for 20 Israeli hostages held by Hamas since its October 2023 cross-border assault. And we told you about that earlier in the show. Balul said a lawyer from Adamir, a Palestinian human rights group, had told her Abu Sido was being held under Israel's unlawful combatants law, a form of administrative detention. Right? He was detained. No charges. Omer Schatz, an Israeli international law expert at Sciences Po University in Paris, said the law allows Israel to limit access to lawyers, incarcerate people without charge or trial, and arbitrarily detain many Palestinians in Gaza. Just like the United States, everything looks like us. According to Adamir, 2,673 Gazans are currently detained under this law. The Israeli military said in a statement sent to Reuters that its detention policy was in full alignment with Israeli law and the Geneva Conventions on legal standards for humanitarian treatment in wartime. Israeli Justice Ministry did not respond to Reuters' request for comment. In March 2024, the Israeli military said it raided Shifa Hospital, accusing Hamas of operating from the premises. Hamas had denied Israeli allegations it had command posts underneath Shifa and other Gaza hospitals. Reuters cannot independently verify the assertions of either side, but I'm pretty sure Israel was lying. Abu Sido said he was severely beaten, handcuffed, blindfolded, and forced to kneel for long periods while in detention. His wrists looked raw during his meeting with Reuters, which he said had been caused by the shackles. Reuters cannot independently verify the details of his account. He was first held at Israel's Sde Timan military detention camp, then transferred to the Ofer military camp, which is in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, and later to Ketziat prison in Israel, according to his wife. Balul said Abu Sido was arrested only for being a journalist for a Palestinian institution. Well, I guess that's all you need in Israel. A spokesperson for the Israeli prison service said all inmates were held according to legal procedures and their rights upheld. I'm sure you would say that. We're not aware of this claims described, and the best of our knowledge, no such incidents occurred under IPS responsibility, the person said. The spokesperson said as their nose grew and poked the reporter in the eye. The Israeli military statement said mistreatment of detainees was strictly prohibited. The military said that prolonged restraint was only allowed in exceptional cases with significant security risks and denied that detainees were forced to remain in a crouching position. Yeah, an Israeli military official told Reuters in September that of around 100 criminal investigations related to the Gaza war, most concerned allegations of abuse or death of detainees in military custody. 2 cases have led to indictments, and 1 soldier was sentenced to 17 months in prison. Ooh. Reuters previously spoke to released Palestinian prisoners who said they suffered abuses in Israeli detention. Many of the Israeli hostages released by Hamas have also described torture, sexual assault, psychological abuse, and denial of food and medical care. Amani Sraneh of the Palestinian Prisoners Society said conditions for Palestinian inmates deteriorated dramatically after Hamas's October 7th attack, with reports of sexual assault, beatings, denial of medication, and food shortages. She said conditions were even worse for Gaza Palestinians held in military detention. Abu Sido said that prison was the graveyard of the living. When I returned to Gaza, it was like my soul returned to my body. But when I saw the destruction, how can I start again? Well, you know, $67 billion might help with that if that actually goes to Gaza. I doubt it will, though. So we go back here to Chicago, and we talk about censorship through the actual companies that own these platforms, right? So in this case, it's Meta via Facebook as siding with Trump. Facebook suspends Chicago community group issuing ICE alerts. And I was hearing stories about people in Chicago following ICE agents in their cars and honking their horns at them and stuff. Okay, we're still on. Chicago residents in recent weeks have found numerous ways to resist the Trump administration's deployment of hundreds of federal agents in its increasingly violent Operation Midway Blitz anti-immigration campaign, with thousands of people marching to demand armed officers leave the city, some physically intervening in arrests, and community members volunteering to patrol their neighborhoods to warn the public when agents are nearby. But the alliance between big tech and the Trump administration on Tuesday interfered with the efforts by more than 80,000 Chicagoland residents to show solidarity with immigrants and people of color as Facebook suspended a community group where people have been tipping off their neighbors when they see U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, ICE baby, and other federal agents in public areas. Days after far-right activist and conspiracy theorist Laura Loomer, also known as the puppet from Saw, who has gained considerable influence in the White House despite holding no formal government position, spoke out against a group called ICE Citing Chicagoland. Facebook parent company Meta suspended the group to stop its 84,000 members from sharing information about impending ICE raids and enforcement actions. Loomer wrote on the social media platform The Tweeters on Sunday that big tech executives, such as Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, should use this as an opportunity to be in compliance and to support President Donald Trump's immigration policies, but they aren't. And then she ate a box load of kittens. She said the presence of the community group was evidence of Zuckerberg's leftist subversion of Trump and his policies. Yeah, seriously, who is this Laura Loomer chick? And her plastic ass face. Why do people listen to those people? Exactly. Fuck ICE. Yeah, Zuck is Trump's pussy. 2 days later, U.S. Attorney General and Dollar Tree warped Barbie doll Pam Bondi announced that action had been taken to stop Chicago area residents from discussing the deployment of federal agents. Today, following outreach from the Department of Justice, Facebook removed a large group page that was being used to dox and target ICE agents in Chicago, Bondi said. Bondi repeated a claim by the Department of Homeland Security that immigration agents have faced escalating violence from protesters in Chicago. Oh, have they? You mean questions? Few specific examples have backed up the claim, while ICE agents and other officers have been filmed tear gassing a residential neighborhood, shooting pepper spray at a priest at a demonstration, slamming a congressional candidate on the ground, and holding a journalist on the ground before shoving her in an unmarked car, ramming into another vehicle while speeding away, and eventually releasing her without charges. This is the clown car bullshit we're talking about, and he's doing. The Chicago Sun-Times noted 2 examples of ICE officers being injured on the job in Chicago recently. One who said his injuries he sustained during a traffic stop that proved fatal for an immigrant named Silverio Villegas Gonzalez were nothing major, and another who hurt his leg chasing a protester. I like the kid on the bike that was like yelling at him, and then he rode away on the bike. The administrator of ICE Sightings Chicagoland posted a screenshot of messages they had received from Meta, which accused the group of failing to follow Facebook's community standards. The group had never been reported or flagged previously. And that's the thing about Facebook, when they tell you that you've failed to follow their community standard. They don't tell you what you failed to. I've been kicked off Facebook like twice, and I still don't know why. They never give you the example of what got you kicked off. They just tell you, oh, you violated our community standards. Oopsie sauce, you got to go. That's all they do. Meta spokesperson Francis Brennan, a former campaign advisor for Trump during the 2020 election, there you go, told the Sun-Times the group had violated Facebook's coordinating harm and promoting crime policy, which bars groups and users from outing the undercover status of law enforcement, military, or security personnel if the content contains the agent's name, their face or badge, and any of the following: the agent's law enforcement organization, the agent's law enforcement operation, or explicit mentions of their undercover status. In other words, you will not fuck with the Gestapo. The Gestapo will fuck with you. Facebook's policy was revised in 2023 and had previously banned people from sharing explicit identifying information about undercover agents, not mentions of the agencies they worked for. Zuckerberg said earlier this year that content moderation on Facebook had gone too far and apologized to Republican lawmakers for previously stopping users from spreading misinformation about COVID-19. If the Facebook posts happen to bother Trump, will they still be uncensored? And will their free expression be protected? If you understand what a Trump suck-up Zuckerberg is these days, you can probably take a wild guess, wrote Joe Kokura at SFist, or San Franciscoist. It looks like SFist on Tuesday. Zuckerberg was one of several tech billionaires who attended Trump's inauguration in January. Last month, he and other Silicon Valley executives attended a White House dinner where they lavished praise on the president as they discussed their investments in artificial intelligence and their hopes for a pro-business, pro-innovation approach to their technology from the administration. At the AV Club on Wednesday, Mary Kate Carr said the removal of the ICE Sightings group was yet another installment of how are tech billionaires carrying water for Donald Trump today. This is the same company that had policies allowing for chatbots to have sensual conversations with kids, but discussing local law enforcement among neighbors is a bridge too far, wrote Carr. So yeah, and probably Facebook is not the only one has done that. I'm sure probably other places too in that same ilk have done the same thing. They don't want you messing with Johnny Law. Well, speaking of ICE, baby, Trump's big deal when he was talking about ICE and talking about these foreigners, he said that we got to get these gang-related people out of the country, right? It started off with gang-related, right? Now, so state data reveals that just 0.5% of Florida ICE detainees are gang affiliated. How about that? Amid repeated assertions by administration figures that Trump's deadly anti-immigration blitz is targeting the worst of the worst among criminal illegal aliens, critics of the crackdown this week pointed to official data belying those claims. Take last month's invasion by federal forces of a Chicago apartment complex, during which witnesses said agents broke down doors, terrorized residents, including children, smashed furniture and belongings, and dragged away dozens of zip-tied people, including U.S. citizens and minors. U.S. citizen children were separated from their undocumented parents after the raid. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement calling the raid a targeted enforcement operation in an area frequented by Chanda, that boogeyman, a transnational criminal organization from Venezuela that Trump has designated a terrorist group and targeted in a series of extrajudicial high seas murders of people critics contend did not belong to the gang. The Trump administration initially said that 2 people arrested during the raid were suspected of being TDA members, but then quietly halved that figure to just 1 without providing evidence to support even that claim. This after the Lord Satan Stephen Miller, Trump's white nationalist deputy chief of staff, who reportedly once advocated drone strikes on unarmed migrants, painted a picture of a neighborhood overrun by TDA gangsters. The official DHS count of Chanda members arrested in the Chicago apartment raid has now dropped down to just 1, Aaron Reichlin Melnick, a senior fellow at the advocacy group American Immigration Council, said on social media Tuesday. A few days ago, Stephen Miller was claiming the entire building was full of Chanda terrorists. And he probably would have, if he would have had the power, he probably would have bombed the building. Meanwhile, in Florida, where Trump administration officials and Republicans, including Charlie Brown character Governor Ron DeSantis, claim that a large percentage of undocumented people arrested by ICE and other law enforcement are violent criminals, just 25 people, or 0.5% of arrested undocumented individuals, have known gang affiliations, according to the state's own crime statistic. That's not saying it's actively member in these gangs. They're just gang affiliation. The narrative that immigration enforcement is going after gang members in this country is a lie, said Florida immigration advocate and Center for Community Change Action fellow Thomas Kennedy. Data shows that more than 7 in 10 people detained nationwide by ICE as of last month had no criminal conviction, and many of those who had convictions committed only minor offenses such as marijuana possession or traffic infractions. As of mid-August, 2/3 of people deported had no criminal convictions, according to the government data reported by the Marshall Project. Testifying before a House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing earlier this year, former ICE Chief of Staff Jason Hauser described the administration's crackdown as designed for media optics rather than public safety. When resources are diverted toward the arrest of low-priority individuals, enforcement becomes a dragnet, Hauser said. That may generate high arrest numbers for press releases, but it pulls ICE personnel away from complex, high-risk cases that improve public safety. It creates a false sense of security while leaving human trafficking, narcotics operations, and violent criminal networks less disrupted. Well, that's all Trump's buddies, are the narcotics people, the violent criminal networks, and the human especially the human trafficking people. That's all his people. This misalignment of mission isn't just inefficient, it's dangerous, he added. When officers are used as blunt instruments of fear rather than precision tools of public safety, we create a more chaotic and combative environment for them to operate in. We reduce their ability to engage local partners, obtain reliable intelligence, and build cases that will stand up in court. That's when you send in the National Guard, though, right? That's so they can deal with all that bullshit. Trendy agua. Yeah. Trendy agua. That means popular water. I don't think that's what that means. Trendy agua. I don't know what that means. Finally, in our propaganda watch, yes, we got another Charlie Kirk story. I haven't been doing a lot of these, but I just wanted to bring this one up because I thought this was pertinent. So the U.S. revokes visas for 6 foreigners over Charlie Kirk-related speech. So they're still worshiping at the altar of Charlie Kirk. The Trump administration has revoked the visas of 6 foreigners deemed by U.S. officials to have made derisive comments or made light of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk last month. The State Department said Tuesday it had determined they should lose their visas after reviewing their online social media posts and clips about Kirk, who was killed while speaking at a Utah college on campus last month. The announcement came as Trumpy was posthumously awarding him America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yeah, because and that's the thing, it ain't just Trump. Like Biden, Obama, they gave these things to all kinds of creatures. At Kirk's funeral in September, Trump called him a great American hero and martyr for freedom. Martyr. You call somebody a martyr, that's some religious shit. The administration and its supporters have targeted people for their comments about Kirk, leading to firings or other discipline of journalists, teachers, and others raising their free speech concerns. 6 foreigners who had their visas revoked were from Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Mexico, Paraguay, and South Africa. They were not identified. Trump and Secretary of State Aquaman will defend our borders, our culture, and our citizens by enforcing our immigration laws, the State Department rattled on. Aliens who take advantage of America's hospitality while celebrating the assassination of our citizens will be removed. So much for free speech for you guys. Vice President J.D. Vance and other top U.S. officials have encouraged people to call out offensive language about Kirk that they see online. In an unusual tweet last month, Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau asked social media users to copy him or CC him on any relevant posts, saying he was personally disgusted to see some of the social media praising, rationalizing, or making light of the event, and have directed our consular officials to undertake appropriate action. Wait a minute, rationalizing? You can't even rationalize it? Take our narrative or you'll be booted out. In addition to Tuesday's action, the administration has ramped up efforts to identify and potentially expel thousands of foreigners in the United States, notably students, who it says have either fomented or participated in unrest or publicly supported protests against Israel's military operations in Gaza. The administration has also denied visas to applicants whose social media histories have been critical of its policies. Among the higher profile cases, the administration has expelled South Africa's ambassador to the U.S. for comments critical of Trump, revoked a visa for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to attend the UN General Assembly, and yanked the visas for British punk rap duo Bob Vylan. It said it's reviewing the status of more than 55 million current U.S. visa holders for potential violations of its standards. So you got time for all that bullshit, but you ain't got time to actually fix the country. Dumbasses. Those actions have been criticized by civil rights groups as violation of constitutional protections for freedom of speech, which apply to anyone in the United States and not just to American citizens. Right? Rules for thee. You know the thing. Is that it? Yeah, so that's it. That's Propaganda Watch. All this bad news today. Jesus H. Damn, and we're already past 1 o'clock, and we're not even done yet. I knew this was going to be a long one, but that's not what she said. I'm loving it. I don't know if he's going to be on today on YouTube. I know he's moving some stuff around, but our buddy Kevin over at Black Bear News, he's got his show usually at 2 p.m. Eastern, but also we throw this up so you can help him with his GoFundMe. You know, he lost his home in the LA fires. He could use all the help you can get. Links are down below, and links for our other friends too. Cowboy Kitty's sister-in-law, I believe. She needs help as well. And of course, our buddy Chanda, who's dealing with a return of cancer. She could use our help as well. I know we're all broke and everything, but if you could at least send out or share out the links, that would probably help our friends a great deal. Yeah, so that's today. Tomorrow we got this. Oh, not that. We got her next week. Where is it? There we go. We got this tomorrow night. It's a secret show. All kinds of fun videos and hooting and hollering and raising the roof and getting arrested and, smelling like hadn't bathed in 3 days. That's a secret show. They call it a secret show because they don't want you to know about the stank that prevails on that show. Thank God it isn't smell-o-vision. That's for sure. Finally today, folks, I don't really like elections anymore. I'm not a big fan of elections, but I like local elections, especially when it deals with puppers or any kind of animal. Qualified quadrupeds compete to become Nova Scotia's town's pet mayor. So let me see here. I think this is all right. So these are the finalists for the pet mayor election in Nova Scotia. And you could go to laanimalshelter.org/mayor. I don't know why it's LA Animal Shelter. But you have, you could vote for Major. Major's a fun little pupster with the sunglasses there. Look at that. What a sweetheart, right? You got Derby. Look at Derby. Derby's a fun little pet. These are the candidates. Oh my, Susie, you look. That's not PR friendly, dear. You gotta fix your hair, okay? For the photo ops. And you got vote Rhea. Rhea's a pretty little St. Bernard there. Hello. What a sweet pea. And Ducky. Oh, this guy looks like a character. This guy looks like a character, too. We got Nunya. I like this. That's my favorite. Nunya. Who's the mayor of your town, Nunya? Nunya what? Nunya business. Mr. Bear. Oh, but it's just a little bitty thing, too. Look how cuddly. That's so cute. Nova. Oh, Nova says, look, I'll bring you sticks. I'm going to be a good mayor. And finally, Sherlock the cat. What the hell's his cat doing in here? But all right, kitties. Sherlock. The town of Amherst, Nova Scotia is teaming up with a local animal shelter to elect the town's first ever four-legged pet mayor into office. Amherst and the Lillian Albin Animal Shelter. Oh, that's what LA is, the Lillian Albin. Animal Shelter announced that the top 10 candidates from a field submitted by local residents, and the public can now vote on the shelter's website for their preferred pet mayor. It costs $5 Canadian or $3.56 U.S. currency to vote, and the proceeds go toward the care of animals currently at the shelter. The dog candidates are Derby, Major, Susie, Rhea, Ducky, Nunya, Nunya Beeswax. You got a whole full name. Jack, Mr. Bear, and Nova. There's also one cat in the race named Meow Stash, a.k.a. Sherlock. Why you gotta have a fake name, cat? It's Sherlock because Meow Stash gives away that it's a cat. The responses have been so creative, seeing the designs that people are putting together. I've been promoting it on my end, but the stuff that people are sending me to, the edits and the slogans and their campaign promises are so cute and creative, and people are really trying to win. Lori O'Connell of the Lillian Albin Animal Shelter told CTV News Nova's campaign bio dubs him the fetch master of Amherst. Under Nova's leadership, expect more wood chips in the dog park, free balls at every poop bag station, and town-wide treat dispensers, pending budget approval. Every citizen deserves a good walk, his bio states. Meowstache, meanwhile, is said to be distinguished, determined, dapper Mayor Meowstache. Meowstache is a very distinguished cat. He would make a great mayor of Amherst, her bio reads. Derby's bio states his qualifications for public office. Derby has office experience, loves paperwork, shredding the paper, and has boundless energy, it reads. Public voting closes at the end of the day today. The winner will be announced tomorrow. Nova Scotia. You know what? I would vote for a pet at this point over a person. I think I'd trust a pet a hell of a lot more than would the two-legged variety. So, Sherlock the cat would be your choice. He washes his ass for that. Yeah, that's right. Wash your ass. That's true. I don't think, Sherlock could keep it clean. That's for sure. I don't know about Meowstache, but I know, I know Sherlock would. Right in my kitty. Cute. Oh, you want to put your own in there? Okay, your kitty. All right, that was some fun stuff. You have to end the show with some at least some funny stuff. or funny to me. I don't know if it's funny to you, but it was funny to me. So, anywho, that's going to be it for me. Tomorrow night, Secret Show, 11 a.m. 11 a.m.? 11 p. I don't even know what world we're living in anymore. Midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time. This show, hopefully, we'll be back on Tuesday. I had some things I had to do on Tuesday, and I couldn't do the show. I had to get those done beforehand, so I apologize for not having a show then. We'll try to be back on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and 8 a.m. Pacific Time on YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. If you're participating in No Kings tomorrow, don't wear yellow. That's Color Revolution, pro-NATO, pro-propaganda. Right. And be careful. All right. Probably don't bring your cell phones either because, they might get taken away or something like that. So be good, for goodness sake. Whoa, somebody's coming. I'm going to be out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And, or if not tomorrow night, I'll see you next week. Be sure you're following these cats and promoting them as well. Good peoples. If you want to help me, all my donation links are down below. You can do Patreon, like $1 or $5 a month, whatever you want to do. Get your name and lights at the top of the show. We got CashApp and all that stuff too. If you can't afford to donate, that's fine too. If you could share out the links, that's almost as good as money. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. If I don't see you, I'll see you. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace!
This is City Alpha 5! Woo!